Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Bum, bum, bum. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Hello, hello. All right. Samantha Dragonati starting us off this morning. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I'm going to pause that for now. All right, girls. So, all right, today's going to be a day. This is how it's going to go. First things first, few catch-ups before we really get started today. First and foremost, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Please like the stream as it really does help. You know, I am a small content creator and I do fairly well, and I'm really happy with where I am as a small content creator. Like, I really can make a living. I pay my bills. That's a beautiful place to be, to get up every day and make what I want and get paid for it. Like, I'm blessed. With that said, there are games I do have to play to appease the YouTube gods, and the lack of interaction and sharing of the videos is impacting the channel. So, and I say this to my audience with care and love, engage with comments wisely. The lack of comments on videos tends to be because my audience is mature and introverted and kind, and they often like to listen without engaging, which is fine. Usually YouTube videos end up being pushed out because of, say it with me, girls, hate comments. And I hate that. I hate that the one downside to my job is that in order to grow bigger, people who hate me have to watch my content. And that seems to be how the algorithm works in a lot of cases. Your videos tend to go viral because people are upset with you. So, large disagreements on this channel, though welcomed, often get blocked because people usually add in a lot of just very negative spins to their comments. So the dilemma is that YouTube wants engagement. And like I said, the best people to engage are people who disagree with you, which is fine. I don't mind disagreement. I do also dislike that the disagreement has to come with a lot of often misogyny and racism people haven't deconstructed. So I guess one of the dilemmas is that I have to allow comments to exist on this channel to an extent. Obviously, I will still block people happily that break too much TOS or any TOS. But ultimately, I think we have to allow, and I hate to say this, some comments in the community that might make it feel unsafe for my audience. But if you guys want a safe space that's a little bit more cordial, you can join the Discord. You can join YouTube members, 18 plus, of course. You know, you can go to that third space on Discord. But for now, YouTube is a free platform. It's a great way to spread the content. And so I'm just warning my audience ahead of time, because usually I'm pretty good at censoring comments. I'm going to be a little more lax on it just to allow engagement. And I want you to just keep that in mind, right? Okay. Yeah. Chet says, so use our open opinion-mindedness for the betterment of your comment section instead of saying it all for the live chat. It doesn't really matter whether you're engaging on live chat or in YouTube comments. I mean, ultimately, if people aren't sharing the videos and the videos aren't getting around to new people, that's how it ends up spreading. So that's why people who engage in putting your videos on Reddit, that's why videos go viral, right? Because videos end up on Reddit, they end up on hate forums. It's not a big deal. You don't have to worry about me getting my channel to be sustainable. You have to just concern yourself with how you're engaging with bad people in my comment sections. I can't protect my audience from it because it's how the business works, but I'll do my best to take away the true harmful comments. But do not worry about how to make my business sustainable. That's my job, right? I just wanted to warn you so you know what you might be engaging with, right, in the comment section, because I do a pretty good job at protecting my community. I'm not going to be able to do that as much in the comment sections, but don't worry about, I will handle my business. You handle how you engage with weirdos who come on my videos, okay? Especially for this video here, right? This video here can have the potentiality of inviting a really negative comment section onto my videos. So just keep that in mind. We're covering Ethan Klein. We're covering Noah Samsen, who I love. We love Noah here. I think we're all big Noah fans. We appreciate his passion for Palestine. If you guys haven't been watching, Palestinians are still suffering. There's still a genocide. 2 journalists just passed away, were targeted and killed. the co-director for the new Palestinian film that just won an award, has been kidnapped and beaten by Israeli soldiers. Like, we are not slowing down in terms of the pain that Palestinians are feeling. Like, the pain is not slowing down. And so we have to keep this in mind. If you guys haven't seen the news coverage, it's horrible. And I started to watch this Noah Samsen video this morning by myself. And it was so good. You know, the first 10 minutes of it, I was like, man, this is too good. I got to show this on stream. I also need something very clear here to be explored in our audience and our community. Like, Ethan Klein could become one of the most dangerous people on YouTube, not just because of his rhetoric, but to other YouTubers. Within this video, Noah's going to explain how Ethan is threatening to sue Noah for any defamation. Remember that Ethan Klein gained fame and notoriety on YouTube thanks to the community rallying against or with him on his side against another YouTuber who wanted to sue him for defamation. So, you know, Ethan has become the villain that got him famous in the first place. And I think this is what's so disheartening about human beings, is they have such a blockage to how they cause harm that they end up causing more harm in the long run. Ethan just isn't learning. He's not eating the cupcake. He cannot eat the cupcake to save his life right now. I'm not saying he's a 1 on my level system, just like for the sake of the, you know, little analogy here, metaphor, like, he's not eating the fucking cupcake. Everyone's trying to help him. Everyone's like made it clear, like, dude, you're pushing Israeli propaganda, and he just can't get it. He cannot get it to save his life. So let's watch Noah explain it, because this is the latest video. Noah made an initial video, I think a week or two ago. I don't remember how long ago. And now this is the G side supporting YouTubers responded. This is them responding to him. I'm going to put it at 1.25 as we like it here in this neurodivergent space. And let's jump in, because again, it's hard to see, you know, Ethan really lived long enough to see himself become the villain. And we get the chance to watch it happen in real time. Humans are going to human, huh? It really is coming to that. All right, let's check out Noah's video.
Since I released my video, The YouTubers Who Backed a Genocide, there have been some developments. Ethan Klein responded to the video with an Instagram story shortly after its release, where he wrote, "God, these bread tubers are such pathetic fucking rats. When the fuck did I ever support a genocide? I criticize your idol Hassan, and you all resort to straight-up character assassination and horrific lies. A campaign which resulted in the CPS call and harassment like I've never experienced in my 15 years on YouTube. Fuck you and fuck your movement. Socialism deserves better representatives." Soon after this post, Ethan brought my video up during his live show where he threatened to sue me.
So this fucking little scumbag here who put me and Mudahar, Turkey Tom, and Destiny in a thumbnail and said the YouTubers who backed a genocide. This is fucking disgusting. And I'm not okay living in this world where these little fucking punk ass scumbags can just say this shit and get away with it. Like, accusing people, usually defamation, can be all different types of things. Someone supporting genocide, we throw this term around a lot. That's one of the most, I mean, can you say something more fucked up about somebody than that? Sounds pretty defamatory.
Did you hear, Ethan? Could you hear something more offensive than calling me a G-side supporter? And I'm like, you say that about people all the time. You're a terrorist supporter. You're this supporter. You're that supporter. Again, I don't know what is happening, except Ethan is just doubling down with this like belief system. This is his belief. This is his bubble. This is his perception. And this is like his conclusion. These are the tools. These are the data points that led him to X conclusion. But this is why progressives stop talking to centrists. Like, I know with Peace and Love, we tried to make so much effort on this channel talking to people on the other side, you know, and it became a point where like, you're not even trying. There's no way you're going to change your mind. And then people go, wow, I can't believe you're not engaging with these people. I can't believe you're like, now, you know, you're not engaged. Like, yeah, it's one thing to be open and compassionate to people and meet them where they are. But if they're not going to do the same, like, I'm not interested. And I think people don't understand. That's why you'll hear progressives say, like, it's not my job to educate you. Because at some point we can tell you're not actually engaging. You don't actually want to get better. You don't actually want to challenge yourself. Which is fine. Like, that's you're like 90% of the population. Congratulations. Like, you're like everybody else, right? Woo. But that's the thing. You know, Ethan doesn't get it. He can't fathom that he could be wrong. And for all of his supporters who are in my comment sections all the time being like, Brittany, why do you keep saying he's anti-Palestinian? Like, he's so pro-Palestine. You know, Ethan is pro-Palestine the way liberals are pro-trans. It's okay when other people's kids do it, but not ours. It's okay when, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's anti-racist the way a centrist is anti-racist, the way, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's nice that Black people have rights or Asians have rights or Middle Eastern, but like marrying into the family, I don't think so. That's the Ethan. He's like not interested. You know what I'm saying? Like it's fine. Everyone's on a journey. Racism is a journey, right? Like sexism is a journey. Everyone has to deconstruct the patriarchy and everything. Like I get it. But Ethan isn't working on it. Ethan's building up the patriarchy. Ethan's like, how do I add a stone to Israeli propaganda? Ethan is like the useful idiot. You know? He's like the useful idiot. And like the thing is like he thinks the rest of us are just insane. And maybe we are. But I feel like making it clear that everything Israel is doing is wrong is kind of that's your biggest accusation, is that we keep pointing out that Israel isn't stopping. People are dying right now. Palestinians are being genocided right now. They're being targeted right now. Make no mistake that Israel's intention is to control that whole region, and they do not want Palestinians there. No matter how much you've like soaked up the propaganda, there is not an end to this where Palestinians have any home to come back to. I don't know how much louder they need to say it. I don't know how much louder Trump and Netanyahu have to say it for you to understand. They're literally saying it. It's not you don't have to watch a progressive to know it's true. Watch them say it. Listen to those, what is it called, that podcast? Nice Israeli Boys say they work with Netanyahu, and most Israelis would press a button to kill every Palestinian. They're saying it with their chests out. So, you know, Ethan being like, I'm going to take the family to Israel. I'm going to show them how beautiful Israel is. Girl, you know what I mean? Like, girl.
And again, I'm not taking any prisoners. If my attorney thinks there's anything in here, if he thinks that there's like a decent shot of defamation, I'm suing this fucking piece of shit. This little scumbag.
So he is threatening.
See that? Like he's threatening to sue Noah. He's like, my lawyers are going to check if there's any defamation, anything in Noah's videos to let me sue him. This is a danger to all YouTubers. Ethan is now a threat to all YouTubers. This is not the standard we should be held to, especially since Ethan, again, rose to fame because somebody did the same thing to him. And he said, where's fair use? Where's free speech? And now Ethan is going after Noah. Can you imagine? Like, this is not good, girls.
To sue me for defamation on the grounds that accusing someone of supporting genocide is messed up. I can think of something even more messed up than accusing someone of supporting genocide, which is, actually supporting genocide. I can't imagine that it's pleasant to be confronted with the idea that you might be supporting a genocide, so the instinct here to deflect and deny without even offering any sort of actual defense against the points is an entirely predictable response. This is how the liberal media class will operate in the coming decades when it's time to answer for their crimes of manufacturing consent for a genocide. They will simply say, no, I didn't, if they say anything at all. Most of them won't. It's happened throughout history. It happened with the Vietnam War. It happened with the invasion of Iraq, and it'll happen again with Gaza. What makes Gaza a bit different, though, is that unlike prior US-backed atrocities abroad, we all know what's been happening there the entire time. Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza has been called the first ever live-streamed genocide because we've seen the entire thing as it's happened with high-definition cell phone video. The mass destruction, the ruthless attacks on the healthcare system, the deliberate targeting of men, women, children, medics, aid workers, the intentional starvation used.
And look, listen to me when I say this. If you are not watching the videos, if you haven't seen the videos, you might not know it's happening because you're doing this. I get it. You might have literally no concept of what's happening in Palestine, right? I was late to the Palestine game, right? My bad. I was absolutely late to it. Once I dug deep, once I started watching all the videos, once I read the book, I was like, oh, shit, this is very bad. Like, this isn't just like a little bad. This is like very, very, very bad, right? So I get if you're late to the game. I get it. But start now. It's never too late to start. Start now. Go watch the videos. Go watch the interviews with the parents. Go watch the doctors. Go watch the interviews with the medics. Go watch their interviews, and then you'll have a visual representation, because some of us are visual learners. I feel you. And it will, just like with the vegan journey like I've been on, a lot of you said you hadn't seen those videos before of factory farming. I get you. I hadn't seen them. And once I saw the videos, I was like, oh, I'm having like a different relationship now that I've seen videos. Now that I've seen videos, I'm like, okay, because, you hear it. You hear it and you think, oh, I don't know what that means. I don't like the pressure. My PDA is being triggered. Don't force me to pay attention to your issue because there's already enough issues. I'm tired. I get it. Human's gonna human, myself included. I get it. But if you have a moment, go watch the videos, really listen to the interviews, and don't do it because the world is pressuring you. Do it because it's within your values to recognize like, oh, something bad is happening. something truly horrific is happening, right?
By Israel as a weapon of war, and then the massacres that followed that starvation when Palestinians crowded around aid trucks trying to get what little food Israel was allowing into the strip, the 20,000 slain children, many of them slaughtered with their entire families, the IDF terrorists recording and posting their war crimes, acts of humiliation, degradation, their torture.
What is this? Do you see these Israeli soldiers? They'll go into people's homes, put on their clothes, pick up their underwear, laugh at them, look at their children's toys and be like, ah, ha, ha, ha. They'll play their pianos. They'll destroy their homes even more. Man, humans really gonna human, huh?
And rape of Palestinians. The full support of Israel.
Let's rewind that a little bit.
Crimes, acts of humiliation, degradation, their torture and rape of Palestinians. The full support of Israel throughout all of these atrocities. The vile, dehumanizing racism that is required to uphold a project like this.
I just think we need to kill them, every one of them, and that's it. And if not that, because the country will not let that happen, the government. Just the least we can do is just kick them out of our land, because this is our home, this is our land, and we deserve it.
What do you think about Palestinians?
That I hate them, and I wish they all died. We didn't stop, and we killed everyone.
You're gonna kill everyone?
Yes, yes!
You guys are animals. You guys are f***ing animal terrorists.
You killed 10,000 kids.
10,000 terrorists that would grow up to be the next 10,000 kids that would grow up to be the next terrorists. That's what it is.
Really?
Because it's Palestine?
But I'm Palestinian. Does that mean I'm a terrorist?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm a
Okay, this is like a 12-year-old child. I just want to, what he's teaching you or what he's showing you is how children are indoctrinated by Israel to hate Palestinians, right? I'm not looking at this 12-year-old like I'm going to hold them accountable more than Netanyahu, right? Like what he's showing you, in case I need to explain it, is how indoctrination has worked in Israel. And by the way, Americans experience the same indoctrination. I experienced the same indoctrination growing up in American propaganda with the military. We have to kill those people. We have to like genocide them or turn, the sand glass, that was like very typical. Yes, we're violent as a country. Our rhetoric is violent. That's why Israel and America gets along so well. And I love America enough to want to see it be better. You know what I mean? And so the indoctrination starts young. That's what these videos are showing you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want Palestinians in Gaza to die?
Yes.
All of them?
Yes.
Oh my God.
We've seen all of this, which is why the whole no, I didn't defense doesn't hold up because, yes, you did. We have you on video during this genocide that everyone saw spreading propaganda that's been used to justify that genocide.
It's so vile to deny the suffering and trauma of the victims just because you need your heroes at Hamas to be perfect.
My friends, defeating our brutal enemies requires both courage and clarity. Clarity begins by knowing the difference between good and evil. And these monsters, they rape women, they burnt babies.
As if they didn't do that to Palestinians. That's what I'm saying. We can't sit here and sit on our like mole hills of superiority when we are doing the same thing to Palestinians. Like at the end of the day, Israeli soldiers have already been caught raping and molesting. Okay, they've already been caught burning babies. They've already been caught killing people. They've already been caught sniping at children, hitting people for funsies. They're just people being people. That's why we can't use this language. You see how they use this language? Chet says they're not monsters nor evil. They're human, and this is what humans are capable of. See how they do that, though? This is why I say be forewarned not to use monstrous language to separate yourself from humans. This is dehumanizing language. Next, he'll call them animals, right? Next, he'll use any language like as if we're not all animals who have potentiality for evil. We are not monsters. We are human. Humans gonna human. That's why I created that slogan, humans gonna human, because we always do this thing where we're like, we're not like them. They're the monsters. We're not the monsters. We're all human. And humans are capable of so much ugly, so much evil, which is why we have to be better. Okay? We have to be better, right? Chad says, I swear my heart's growing colder and colder every waking moment. I refuse to not bear witness to the grief and psychic horror and despair of Palestinians that come across my feed every day. Well, that's not going to help anybody. So let's go to therapy. Let's get what we need going on. We can't crumble under the pressure and become more ruthless and heartless just because other people are suffering. That's not going to help Palestinians. That's not going to help you, girl. Let's go. Let's get therapy. Let's talk to the right people. Let's meditate. Let's read the right books. We cannot become ugly because the world is ugly. First, not good for your skin. Second, not good for your mental health. Okay? Not good for the world. Never. It doesn't help the marginalized to crumble under the pressure. We must not crumble under the pressure. We must move with kindness and compassion.
He's alive. Many anti-Israel protesters, many choose to stand with evil. They stand with Hamas. They stand with rapists and murderers.
The Gazan Health Ministry, which, by the way, Gaza Health Ministry is run by Hamas, terrorist organization. I think a lot of people are all too happy.
See, Ethan's doing this thing where he doesn't understand how Hamas plays a political role. in the region. And so he goes like, oh, they're like, everything's run by Hamas. Yeah, so that's why I always say terrorist. The word terrorist is a word people use in political war to make sure you're never allowed to show compassion to people fighting for their own injustices. They call them terrorists, like, and I understand, like, within every organization there's always like the worst of the worst, the naive intentioned, but this word terrorist, he doesn't understand how Hamas plays like a role in the Middle East, or I should say in this region, and that he doesn't understand that for the people of Palestine, like, I don't think Ethan understands the weight facing the Palestinian people. Like, deeply does not understand it. Could not even imagine it. And it's so ironic because the world will call the US a terrorist organization and they think it's just like, you're being so silly. What do you think we're doing to people when we go into their countries and destabilize their economies and their whole livelihood? What do you think we're doing? What do you think we're doing right now in Africa? What do you think we're doing all over the world? And by the way, I have, not to tangent, but I have been seeing TikToks because I've been watching the stuff happening in the Congo and Rwanda and stuff. And there's a lot of like African activists who want the continent to be protected from basic colonizer mindset. And they're predicting like they might, because they have such valuable minerals and natural resources, that they're really like predicting some sort of, I don't know, being a huge player in the game in a way that isn't at the foot of America or somebody else. I would love to see it. Let's go. I would love to see countries tear off from America. Like, I know Americans, like, we're so reliable on these countries and we give them no sense of credit for the way that they uplift our communities. Like, we have no idea that at the expense of everyone around the world, but these communities in particular, we have one of the easiest ways of living, right? One of the greatest ways of living their life. But like, even if at the expense of our technology and our stuff, they end up flourishing, because at the end of the day, like, we should have been living this good when they were suffering so bad. To some extent, we have to know this is true. And we all could be living great, but we're all humans are too selfish right now. Like, as an evolved animal species, we're too selfish. Obviously, we have enough resources and enough humans and enough like working labor. We have enough resources for all of us to be living a great life. But we're selfish. We don't want them to have what we have, right? We're not going to give it to them. We think we're better than them. Like, people think they're better than other people. Look at how Netanyahu says they're monsters. These people are monsters. These people are people, dude. And it didn't just happen out of nowhere. Like, all of us are reacting to everybody else. We need to stop reacting and focus on, like, not just reacting because of a reaction, but acting because of like focused intention. Our intentions are being like just so fucked with because of the way that Trump is doing what he's doing and Netanyahu is doing what he's doing, and it's a mess. Yes, exactly. We didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. Okay? We didn't just fall out of a coconut tree.
Happy to not look too deep into these things, but again, Gaza Health Ministry is Hamas. There was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba.
We have you on video attacking and delegitimizing the only groups in the world militarily resisting that genocide, with arguments plucked directly from the US State Department, the #1 material supporter of the genocide.
Terrorist groups.
We have you on video attacking and delegitimizing the most prominent media figures in the YouTube space who have been advocating against the genocide and breaking down the propaganda used to justify it.
Hassan loves all terrorists.
We have you on video running defense for the primary architects of the genocide.
Just the other day, Bibi fired a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about, and he fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump code.
He was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק.
Hold on. I'll read it for you.
And that's like so Trump code.
He was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
I have ordered, this is the moderating voice,
מטילים מצור
a complete siege on
מוחלט על
Gaza.
העיר עזה. אין חשמל,
No electricity,
אין מזון,
no
אין
food,
מים,
no
אין
fuel,
דלק.
no water.
הכל
Everything
סגור.
is
אנחנו
closed.
נלחמים בחיות.
We are fighting human animals. See? I said they would call them animals. We're all animals. Nice try, bitch. We're all biological animals. Nice try, bitch. But see, we're fighting human animals. The dehumanizing language. Girl, look in a mirror, girl. Like, you know what I'm saying?
חיות אדם, ואנחנו
And we act accordingly.
נוהגים בהתאם.
We have you on video attempting to portray the perpetrator of that genocide as some kind of beautiful, free, diverse, democratic state.
We're planning to go to Israel in June with my parents and all the kids. It's going to be such a great trip.
Oh my God, how fun. I'm sorry. This is the most obnoxious thing I've ever heard come out of anyone's mouth. Oh my God, I can't wait to go to Israel. Vacation. Like, I would end a friendship. I'm going to be so for real. I'm going to end my friendship with you. If I see I'm calling it out right now. If I see anybody in my life say, can't wait, hashtag Israel vacation, we're done. Like, first of all, what are you doing? You know, do that shit in secret with a shame. You know what I'm saying? You do that to go visit your family in shame. Not hashtag vacation, Israel's so great, hashtag, what, are you fucking crazy?
And I'm actually really excited to go there. I want to show you guys.
You haven't been there in so long.
It's been a long fucking time. What I want to do is show you guys how I see Israel, because you don't see that when you.
Chat says, a genuine question, what about the birthright trip? Like, should people go? First of all, birthright trips are propaganda used to convince Jews to come to Israel and stay there. You don't have to do your birthright trip. Right? Like, birthright trips are propaganda used by the Israeli government to convince, like, people to go there. So you shouldn't do it. Like, don't do it.
You listen to Hassan and you hear all these fucking mega lefties talking about it like it's some super racist, crazy, like Jim Crow style of society. Like, I can't wait to show you guys how beautiful, how multicultural, how free it feels for people, or just it's a beautiful place. It is. It's one of the most diverse places I've ever been.
These people all seem to believe that in order for someone to back a genocide, they need to look into the camera and say, I support genocide. I think it's good. More of that, please. And while we do have examples of certain.
Exactly. Noah's so smart. It's just like when you have homophobes that are like, I'm not homophobic. I'm just anti-gay marriage. And I think LGBT people should be fired, not have kids, and not be able to hold down jobs. And we should take away their kids. And I think they're perverts who are all grooming children. But I'm not homophobic. The cognitive dissonance.
Parties to the conflict here doing just that, like Destiny and Asmongold.
I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people.
I'm pro-genocide. It sounds really shitty, but I think that Israel should just drop its fucking borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place.
The most common and effective way to back a genocide doesn't look like that. Mainstream Western outlets don't say those Palestinian kids deserve to be killed. No, they say that some kids died when bombs dropped, that Israel says it was dropping on Hamas, which is a U.S. designated terrorist organization. The mainstream Western media doesn't say that there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. They simply quote the death tolls as being reported by the Hamas, aka terrorist-run health ministry, and then report uncritically the IDF saying that most of them are soldiers actually, and soldiers are terrorists by the way, so who's to say what's actually true? The mainstream Western media doesn't say that Yemeni children deserve to die because they're all Houthi terrorists. They simply cite the Houthi-run health ministry, aka terrorist-run health ministry. So when the US and Saudi Arabia kill those children, it's a sad event in the overall morally righteous fight against terrorists.
Chad says, out of curiosity, do you think Ethan's critiques of Hassan are legitimate? No. I think the only time your criticism is correct is when you've identified the issue, understood it from their perspective, and deconstructed it. I have a very strict rule about when criticism should be considered legitimate. It only can be considered legitimate if you understand the person's perspective. If you don't understand the person's perspective and you can't say it to them in a way that makes them feel seen, you don't understand it. Okay, I have this rule on my channel. I have this rule in general. If you say something about somebody and you cannot understand their perspective, then you have no right to criticize them because you have no idea where they're coming from. Ethan has no ability after all of this time to understand Hassan's perspective. He has no ability to deconstruct it. He has no ability to say it properly. Every sentence he says is wrong. And when he gets it right, when he actually understands Hassan, then I will listen to his criticism. But until he gets it right, I'm not listening. You have to understand it first. It's like when you talk to a conservative. Give me an example of a conservative critiquing the LGBT community in a way that is actually factual and doesn't reference religion, bad science, propaganda, or discrimination at the base root, prejudice at the base root of their argument, right? So again, when Ethan gets it right, I will listen to the criticism. But he's not getting it right, so we don't listen.
Terrorism is bad, remember, and terrorists are the bad guys. So if some kids died while they were going after terrorists, I guess that's just war. We saw the same response of, no, I didn't, from Mutahar of the large YouTube channel Some Ordinary Gamers. When Hassan Piker shared my video on his Instagram,
Chat says, so Ethan can't say Hassan showing Hamas terrorist propaganda on stream is morally wrong. He can say that and have that opinion. But contrary, okay, so let me show you. Let me get you to understand the different bubble differences. So you say Hassan is showing propaganda of terrorism. Okay, what do you think Ethan's doing when he perpetuates Israeli propaganda? What do you think Ethan is doing when he says, I'm going to take you guys to Israel and show you how beautiful it is? These are the things that Israel is doing. They have to do this. What do you think Ethan is doing when he promotes anything Israel does? So you can't go for Hassan, or you can go, you can say, I personally have this opinion, but just remember that Ethan didn't personally have an opinion. He sought Hassan's deplatforming. He wanted Hassan deplatformed. I don't want people deplatformed because they're supporting Israel or America or Hamas, because I believe in free speech, right? I don't want you to be deplatformed, okay? But you have to understand there is a difference, okay? There is a difference. And again, like what is that? You know, I assume you're referencing the music videos that he was showing, right? I assume that's what you're referencing, the music videos. Okay. You can have a stance. Look, plenty of women, myself included, have a lot of criticisms of Hassan because all men suffer from misogyny. But unless you're a woman, a queer person, somebody who understands why we're criticizing Hassan, well, you know, I feel like Ethan doesn't come from a good faith position about Hassan. I feel like I listen to a lot of progressives criticize Hassan and I see their perspectives. Ethan, his perspective's just not worth listening to at this point. You know? Chad says misandry sucks too. Yes, but do you know what that means, Habibi, or are you just pretending to? Misandry is just as bad as misogyny, but what you guys call misandry is often not even close to misandry. It's not even fucking close. So you better get it right in my chat or I will mute you. Okay? Everybody knows misandry is bad. No one on this channel would say it was good. But real misandry is not what men are facing. Men are not facing real misandry. They're facing women who are reacting. They're in retaliation. They want to protect themselves. They choose a bear over a Trump voter. Okay? For a reason. Because actual misogyny is at play and it actually kills women. Misandry doesn't kill men because it's not big enough of a problem. But misogyny is killing women. Statistically killing women. I think it's 1 in 7 women will experience abuse by a male person in their life because of misogyny. Okay? Chet says, I was locked away by a woman for 4.5 years of childhood from a toddler. That's just the start. Okay? I don't think you know what misandry or misogyny is. That personal story is horrible, but has nothing to do with the reality of what you're facing. Misogyny is rooted in the belief that men are literally better, that women are faulty because inherently the way they were born. Misandry means that men are inherently evil because of the way they were born. Bad, faulty, broken, second class, less than, because of the way they were born. Your abuse situation at the hands of a woman that has nothing to do with misogyny or misandry. That's abuse. So go to therapy and take it out in my chat, because we're not your therapists. I'm sorry that happened to you, but that has nothing to do with misandry or misogyny. That has to do with trauma at the hands of a person who is probably also not a well-suited parent, who's probably traumatized themselves, which is why we have to break generational curses. I'm sorry you were abused.
Instagram story, Mutahar responded to this post writing, I get watching other people's videos is all you're really good at, but try vetting out slander before promoting. I have never defended or backed the Israeli genocide on innocent Gazans. Never will I ever. Following this, there was a bit of a back and forth. Hassan responded to Mutahar on Twitter, writing, in your only video on Gaza, you admit to not knowing about politics. You try to cover Israel-Palestine as drama slop for a centrist audience. You defend Asmongold for his inferior cultures and genocide comment, then attack pro-Palestinian voices. Mutahar wrote back, yes, I do admit to not being an expert on the topic. I didn't cover it as a drama since it isn't one. Serious situations with dead people and attacks happening every day. I just don't downplay rapes and sugarcoat violent organizations like you. Also didn't defend Asman in vid. Later, Hassan wrote, we were a year into the genocide here. This was your only video on the topic. It downplayed and ran defense for Asmongold's takes, while the bulk of your commentary revolved around how evil the pro-Palestinian streamers.
Damn, Mutahar and Hassan, this is why I got off Twitter, guys. I'm not even on X. Do you know you can't even see X posts without being logged in most of the time? Sometimes they'll show it to you for a second. My mental health is so good. Chad, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. You said, Brittany, what about Hassan interviewing terrorists? I already debunked this 1,000 times. So I'm going to put you on timeout for 24 hours. You can come back later when you've done some educating, okay? You can go watch my previous streams on Hassan. I've already debunked the whole terrorist idea. You know, the news has already debunked it. Everybody has already debunked it. That's what I'm saying. Don't come to my chat uneducated. Educate yourselves.
Were from clips you compiled off of Snark Reddits. Mutahar's final response was, "It's almost as if the bulk of the commentary matched what the video was titled and centered about, Twitch allowing violent and unfiltered rhetoric from your camp on its platform. The clips were actually sourced from the creators who streamed them." So what do we make of this exchange? Well, first, Mutahar denied covering the genocide as drama, but that's exactly what he did. He's never once uploaded a video covering this topic except for when that coverage was filtered through a smear campaign that was making the rounds in the commentary community about a content creator they all don't like. You know, Hassan Bad. He denies defending Asmongold in his video, once again making no effort to actually defend himself on that point, but that's also false. Mutahar whitewashed Asmongold's comments further than anyone else, really. He went so far as to change the content of what Asmongold actually said to make it seem like he wasn't talking about Palestinians when he was.
In this situation, one could, if they were to extend the charitability, could say that Asmongold was probably referring to extremists in the Islamic religion.
Even Asmongold himself admitted that that's what he said when he apologized. This is why he was banned. Now, whether Mutahar stands by this characterization of Asmongold's genocidal rhetoric or not is a different question, but he did do that, and the record shows this. His video is still uploaded on his channel. You can go watch it. Denying this seems to be just indicative of a lack of reflection on his part. Entirely predictable, but worth noting nonetheless. The "no, I didn't" defense is the expected response from centrists and liberal Zionists alike, but I don't know how well it'll hold up in court. I didn't back genocide. How could you say that? I just sat silently the entire time it happened, except for the one time I spoke up, which was actually to attack pro-Palestine activists with bad faith smears that originate from a community of openly genocidal Zionists.
I'm pro-genocide.
They're terrible people.
Best of luck to you in your legal endeavors should you pursue them. I don't know how well that'll hold up, but have fun, I guess. In his last tweet, Mutahar seems to deny his participation in the smear campaign, writing, "The clips were sourced from the creators who streamed them." This is false. Mutahar did not source these clips from Hassan's stream. He sourced these clips directly from the smear website. He cited the website out loud and said, "Go check it out, guys."
There's a website known as DanClancySucks.com.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Who do you think owns that site, you loser, Mutahar? With peace and love, with peace and love, with peace. Losers! God, look at your sources, dude.
Treasure trove of some of the most popular streamers on the site. One of the most popular political streamer, Hassan Piker.
As we went
Man, the way my community was so compassionate, and y'all, I know y'all. I try my best. I really do. It's funny. I gave so much compassion and love to the male communities over COVID and stuff, like the last 4 years. And now that I'm out and I'm actually like making it clear where I stand so they don't get confused, people are like, "I can't believe it. You're so angry. You're so angry." Like, they're like, "I can't believe like you wanted." They don't understand the difference between women when they make an effort to see them where they're coming from and be compassionate, and the difference between the women being exhausted and we're like, "Okay, we're done. I'm tired. I did it enough." And they're like, "I can't believe you're abandoning me after 4 years." I'm like, "Do you hear yourselves?" This is the problem between the binary sexes, right? It's the binary sexes. The binary reality is that men and women, we'll keep the non-binaries out of this because you guys are all too precious and wonderful, okay? But like the men and the women are fighting within these systems where the women are doing all of the emotional. This is literally statistics. Women statistically do most of the emotional labor. And men will get upset when women are like, "Okay, I'm done. It's been 5 years." And they're like, "I can't believe you're ditching me after 5 years." And I'm like, "Yeah, 5 years we waited. We waited for you to get it. How much more privilege and access do you have to not make a different decision at this point?" We were so compassionate to Asmin. We were so compassionate to Sneeko. We were so compassionate to so many of the people on this. Like, we were so compassionate, and none of them got it. None of them got it. They all failed the ultimate test, which was to not make it about their misogyny, to not make it about their racism, to not make it about their prejudice or bigotry or anything else. They failed. They had so many opportunities. They had so many opportunities. And when they came, so many opportunities, and they begged for those opportunities. They wanted it. And now they're like, "I can't believe you're losing faith in me." Well, how many chances do you want? Like, how many chances do you want?
Over, this website is a compilation of out-of-context clips and arguments attacking pro-Palestine creators that openly embraces the support of genocidal Zionist organizations like the ADL and genocidal Zionist politicians like Richie Torres. The community from which all of these allegations originate is that of a content creator who says things like this.
He is interviewing the guy who's about to go do some shit to get himself killed, basically. That's what's gonna happen. We know from this point, that's what's gonna happen. So he walks away, gets back a little bit, and then he sets up behind this thing, right? Is this concealment, I guess? Not cover concealment, right? Because I think the tank's over here. So now he can capture the footage right here. He sees the guys walking, knowing that they're about to get shot, because that's what's gonna happen. And then eventually they get shot and everything is, this is it. It's like act 1, 2, and 3. It's like all here. Now this guy is down. He's dead. These guys are like,
fatally wounded.
they're not even running. They're not even like cowering and running away and screaming in fear. There's like, okay, well, they did it. We got our shots. Okay, is this guy done? Oh, shit. Well, okay. Well, we brought the white flag, so we can put that over the bleeding part, assuming he got shot in it actually, right?
Flag
and then this guy, what, is this guy running back to grab the wife?
By this stage, the man's wife, his widow, has heard what happened.
And like, what does this mean? The wife has heard what happened. Like, bro, this is crazy. I'm sorry. The tracking live movement shot of the lady running up to her dead husband? Like, what is this?
By this stage, the man's wife, his widow, has heard what happened.
Somebody went back and told her, right? The 5 martyrs that walked forward, you know, your husband was the unlucky guy. He drew the short stick today, so come forward, cry for us on camera. Do you think the guy intentionally wanted to get killed?
Okay, Chatter, I'm going to mute you too if you don't get your misogyny handled. You said women who, or you have very much trauma you haven't dealt with. You said women have an off button that once it's done, once it's hit, it's done. But 5 years of expecting someone to be perfect for you isn't rational. Those things are subjective and change with time. I think you're misunderstanding me. Or else you're just a pathetic loser who can't face his own issues. Go to fucking therapy and get out of my chat. Grow up. Unless you're 15, and then in that case, I'm so sorry. Let me talk to you in a different way. Don't come to my fucking chat and literally project your trauma onto my chat and then argue that a woman has to stay in an abusive or horrible toxic relationship for 5 years because you think she should wait around for you. I'm sorry it took you 5 years to learn how to wipe your butt. We're not here for it. Okay? And don't sit here in my chat and be like, oh my God, you're not kind. You're not a kind person. You are literally spewing bullshit in my chat right now. So, with peace and love. Go to therapy. I'm not your mother or your therapist. Okay?
No, I don't think he wanted to die. I don't think they were thinking they were going to die, but they probably were hoping to get shot at, or maybe so you're saying the woman was acting?
Yeah, you're lucky I didn't insta-block you either. That was pretty kind. Thank you, chat. How dare they say I'm not a kind person? This is called tough love Middle Eastern style. This is called tough love Assyrian style. You want some fucking tough love? Here's some fucking tough love. Get out my fucking chat and go to therapy. I'm sorry your mother hurt you, but I'm not that. This isn't the space for it, girl. Okay? This is not your space. Go hang out with Jordan Peterson. Okay? He'll give you a tit to lay on. With peace and love.
I don't think the woman was acting. She probably was sincerely sad. Her husband got fucking killed. But I think they were farming TikTok clips. I mean, remember, these people, we actually, yeah, like have suicide bombers. So it's not that big of a stretch to imagine that they would be willing to get shot. However, now, I haven't gone down this road because this is way more, it would require me to make a lot more assumptions. But it's also possible he didn't get shot, right? Now, do we know the name of the guy? Is he actually dead? Do we even know if this is his wife? These are a whole bunch of questions that would be valid. Now, if I was way more on the pro-Zionist side, I would be asking those questions. Who is this guy? Do we even know if he's actually fucking dead? Like, we don't actually see the wound. It seems like they don't have any problem showing anything else. Like, why just the white flag so that it can look all bloody? Like, show us the actual gunshot. You have no problem showing other violence, right? What Pallywood means is that you're capturing intentional video footage to sell a certain narrative about what's going on, basically. So Pallywood might be, this, right? So the idea is that like 4 innocent civilians are like walking up and you just want like a clip here of the IDF shooting them for no reason because they're civilians with white flags. And you kind of ignore the fact that like, okay, well, they're in a battle zone in an area they were told to evacuate from, and they're going back to try to release somebody that was captured. Like that's like Pallywood, I think. You're essentially provoking the enemy to take what is largely a justified action and then trying to say that it's like indiscriminate civilian killing. It's like a setup. It's not fake, but they're doing it to themselves.
Speaking of that guy, Destiny, the genocidal Zionist sex criminal video game streamer, he also had a crack at responding to my video where he made some interesting points. Destiny criticized my characterization of the 2018 Gaza border protests as being overwhelmingly peaceful by citing instances of violent actions that protesters took part in during the 2018 border protests or the Great March of Return, which were recognized by human rights organizations as being overwhelmingly peaceful.
Overwhelmingly peaceful. Just as a quick thing, because people love to talk about the Great March of Return, the peaceful March of Return. All of this is like the peaceful Great March of Return. Remember this, okay? This is all the peaceful Great March of Return.
Now, when I used the word overwhelmingly in my video, I used it as the word is meant to be used, which is to mean overwhelmingly, which means what the word means, which is to a very great degree or with a great majority.
Overwhelmingly.
Some instances of violence during these protests do not contradict my use of this word. The protests were overwhelmingly nonviolent, which is exactly what the UN report found.
The protest camps set up along the fence can make you do a double take. In parts, they look like a community festival, a carnival, a fair, like a distant cousin to Burning Man. Women prepare falafel sandwiches, barbers give haircuts and trim beards. Lip syncers and dancers perform in the shade. Actors ham it up playing cruel Israeli soldiers. Families come with their children.
If we don't get our land back, our children will do it, God willing.
Ultimately, though, regardless of how the protests were characterized overall, the reason I brought them up in my video was as evidence that Israel has a history of intentionally targeting Palestinian civilians for slaughter. That's what the UN report found. Israeli snipers intentionally targeted medics, journalists, men, women, children, elderly people, and disabled people. Cite whatever instances of property damage, tire burning, flag planting, rock throwing you want. These are irrelevant to the fact that Israel intentionally targeted thousands of civilians with sniper fire. The commission interviewed an international journalist covering the demonstrations.
I feel like Israel's that ex-boyfriend who literally like picks at you every day, death by 1,000 cuts. And then finally, when you retaliate, they like turn on the camera and they're like, "Oh, got you on camera. You're insane, bitch. I'm telling everybody you're insane, bitch." Like, that's what Israel feels like to me. It feels like they're literally poking every day, literally doing the most horrific things. And then the moment Palestinians in any way defend themselves, I love America. America talks this really big game about, I would defend myself. I would do anything for my child. I would take on the world for my child. God forbid Palestinians attempt at any way to preserve their lives. You know, God forbid. And then any sort of retaliation, you guys act like they started it. And what are you, 5 years old? Like, they started it. What are you, 5? Ridiculous.
At the Malika site who described the scene that day. What was notable was the amount of injured people and the slow, methodical shooting. Every few minutes, you would hear a shot ring out and you would see someone fall, and then another shot and another person fell. It went on for hours. I saw a man who had been shot in the throat. I didn't see it happen, but I saw the immediate aftermath. He was covered in blood. I saw a man who had been shot in the head. There was a constant stream of bloody bodies being carried back towards the ambulances. It was surreal and endless. It became almost normal. It was happening so often. A shot, a person falling, people carrying the body away. The number of wounded was astonishing. I couldn't say how many people I saw who were shot because it was so high. I have covered wars in Syria, Yemen, Libya, and I have never seen anything like this. The slow, methodical shooting. It was just shocking. Presenting this fact is only a one-sided history if you think intentional civilian targeting is somehow warranted due to other unrelated instances of violence, which definitionally cannot be true. This is, of course, if we're taking international law into account, but Destiny's a Zionist, so that's not high on his priority list.
I'm pro-genocide.
Destiny has had similar Israel glazing-induced English language difficulties in the past. He had this same response when Norman Finkelstein brought up the 2018 border protests in the Lex Friedman Israel-Palestine debate early last year.
In 2018, there was the Great March of Return in Gaza. By all reckonings of human rights organizations and journalists who were there, it was overwhelmingly nonviolent. Along the Gaza perimeter, there was Israel's best trained snipers, correct?
I don't know best trained, they were snipers.
Fine.
Snipers.
Okay, all right? Because, hey, laugh. It's hilarious. The story's so funny.
You're lying about the Great March of Return had aspects of violence to it. Look what even the UN says it themselves.
Okay.
But you only collect what the UN says that you like.
See, the problem, Mr. Morelli, is you don't know the English language. You don't.
I can read from the UN website itself. In regards to the Great March of Return, they said, while the vast majority of protesters acted in a peaceful manner, during most protests, dozens have approached the fence, attempting to damage it, burning tires, throwing stones and Molotov cocktails towards Israeli forces, and flying incendiary kites and balloons into Israeli territory. The latter resulted in extensive damage to agricultural land and nature reserves inside Israel and risked the lives of Israeli civilians. Some incidents of shooting throwing up explosives are also
talk fast. So people think that you're coherent.
Notice Destiny's retort to Norm's description of the protests being overwhelmingly nonviolent is that there were actually aspects of violence. This is not a contradiction. Overwhelmingly means overwhelmingly.
Hold on, let me read that for you.
Overwhelmingly means overwhelmingly.
I am 16 years old. I was injured on land day on Friday, 30th March. I was on the eastern border in Rafah, and there were thousands and thousands of demonstrators. Guys and girls, women, children, old people. I arrived at 9 a.m. We found a place to congregate. Then we went back for the Friday noon prayers. Then my friend and I went back to the border. This is Miriam, she's 19. But the guys had backed away from the fence, but all the guys had backed away from the fence. My friend and I moved forward. We were in the front of the guys. The other girls joined us. We all held hands. We moved to the front and the guys cheered us on. I was planting flags in the ground as I was moving forward. I planted a flag and grabbed another to wave it around. The soldiers did not like this sight. I was boiling inside. Every day we see the injustice we live in. I was among the very few in the front. We could be counted on your fingers. I went very close. I was 20 meters or more from the soldiers. Whoop, hold on. I was 20 meters or more from the soldiers. When I was waving the flag, I heard gunshots and I was hit and in shock. It was like a nightmare. When they carried me, I fell to the ground. They carried me again and took to the ambulance. I wanted to pass out. I was in so much pain.
Now, you'll find it so far-fetched. Israelis purposely, deliberately targeting civilians? That's such a far-fetched idea. An overwhelmingly non-violent march. What did the UN investigation find? Brace yourself. You thought it was so funny, the idea of IDF targeting civilians. It found, go look this up on your machine.
I already know what you're going to say. You're going to say it found that only one or two of them were justified killings.
Targeted journalists, targeted medics, and here's the funniest one of all. It's so hilarious. They targeted disabled people who were 300 meters away from the fence and just standing by trees.
Okay, I don't know what's happening in my chat. I don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes I think you're trolling me. Who's this? This commenter. You said, I don't know. I feel like you're trolling me. I want to. Who's Nathan? You said, Brit, let's not be ableist about Nathan. Who is that? You said, in fact, humans humaning is also humaning without recognizing their disability. You sound so weird, bro. Sometimes I feel like I get confused. You mean Ethan? Ethan's disability, like his Tourette's? Why are you writing this in my chat? Men have it in their hands to do less or more damage? I don't know what you're talking about, but like get it together because you sound like a spammer.
Zionism's crazy because it kind of backs you into a corner of having to defend the indefensible. And I don't know, if you're as shameless as Destiny is, that's not really an issue.
They're doing it to themselves.
But for most rational human beings, you see someone arguing that and you say, oh, that's an insane person. And that's the high ground we have on Zionism. The more people understand the truth, the less people are going to be publicly willing to defend these crimes. Destiny later nitpicks my comment about the media's use of terrorist designation in articles. Before covering the attack, these outlets always, of course, make sure to mention Hezbollah's US designation as a terrorist organization. Don't worry, guys. They were just terrorists. Nothing to see here. We got the bad guys. They were bad. We are good. Mission accomplished.
Relying on a U.S. terrorist designation is retarded. But you don't need to do that. You could just know what Hezbollah is, which is like a paramilitary militant group that's funded by Iran that now has like seats in the Lebanese government that is like hostily taken over the southern part of that country, right? You could just know that. You don't have a U.S. terrorist designation. But we're gonna start simping for them now? Is that what we're gonna do? Okay.
Even if we're going to explore the reasons why this terrorist designation is to him not illegitimate, it only reinforces the circular logic of the terrorist label. You don't have to call them terrorists to know that they are terrorists. Just look at what they do. They kill civilians. They violently overthrow governments. They take over entire countries. Okay, well, the U.S. does all of those things, but it isn't on the U.S. designated terrorist list. Israel is U.S. backed. The U.S. being, by the criteria we just looked at, a terrorist state. But they're not on the list either. It's almost like these designations are selective and used to reinforce U.S. imperial hegemony. Oh my God, no way.
Exactly. What? That's why the word terrorist is a political term to dissuade people from considering or being compassionate to people you see as the enemy, when there should be no enemies. We should have no enemies. We should have no enemies. The fact that we have enemies is the fault of humanity as a species. We have failed, and we will continue to fail in the right direction. So hopefully we will fail less.
Subhuman, Neanderthal, knuckle-dragging, white dipshits, like Noah too, will sit here and fucking
defend
Hezbollah.
Hey! We love Noah Samson. That's what I mean. Like, be wary of the male progressive who thinks they're progressive when they're really just a centrist playing progressive. Be careful of the centrists. There is no good Republican policy. There are no good conservative policies. You know? There are no good Republican policy. Again, you know, human to human. Okay. So be wary of people who look at progressives in any capacity and can't find common ground with them and say they're all on the same side. That's the biggest red flag of a centrist who pretends to be liberal or progressive, is they can't get along with other progressives in any capacity. I don't mean in typical political capacity. right? Because like you guys know, I left the activism political bubble a long time ago. We're all political. Okay, for the record, I want to say something because sometimes people just are too stupid to understand me. And that's not you guys, right? That's the haters. Okay. Do you guys know the difference? Or maybe this is just my bubble. Do you know the difference between being involved in politics and being an American voter or being an activist? Like these are 3 categories of people, right? I've always voted. I've always maintained voting. I've always stood up for my civil rights and I've always advocated in different ways, but that is different than being in the political bubble. Like that is different than being an active activist. There is a difference. Like as a minority, your activism exists in you existing, right? So that's, you're by default, I'm sorry, an activist in a sense, right? Because everyone's always holding you to the standard of what you represent as a minority. But being actually involved in politics, canvassing, cleaning up streets, getting signatures, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. When I say I left the political bubble, I didn't mean I stopped voting. When I said I left the political bubble, I didn't mean that I stopped advocating for my civil rights. What are you, dumb? So when people come into my chat and they're like, oh, Brittany thinks she's so high and mighty. Brittany thinks she's not involved in politics, but all she talks about is politics. They're so stupid. They don't get it. And it's not their fault. They're stupid. Oh, it is their fault. It's their responsibility to be smarter. But that's where they are in their journey. But it is a lack of education. They don't know the difference. They don't understand that if you are a clear minority, like you're brown, you don't have a choice. You are by default, like in so many ways, an activist. There is a difference between canvassing, getting signatures, going out there, cleaning up. Like there is a difference between being in the political bubble, running for office, paying people, taking bribes, than being a person who engages in political conversations or talks about existing. Okay? Like, you know, I don't identify with systems. One of the things I keep hearing with people is like, oh, Hassan's a bad socialist, or these people are bad socialists, or these people. Identifying with a system is so silly to me. I don't identify as a capitalist. I don't identify as a socialist. I'm not interested in identifying with your systems. I don't identify with your systems. Your constructs are not helpful to humanity, and they are hurting people. Okay? Chat says, did I just hear taking bribes? Yeah, you did. Like that guy out of New York who took $2 million. You know what I'm saying? Like there are a lot of people, okay, that being in politics means being in politics. Okay, I'm not like, you know what I mean? I might have voted for Harris, but I'm not interested in playing her game. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? I think people forget, like, you existing can be enough. You existing joyful is enough. You moving on with your life and getting your job and building your family, that's enough to be considered an activist in a lot of bubbles. Okay? But I'm not interested in playing these political games in the same way everyone else is because I already did it. It's not good. I think it's bad. There are lots of ways to play in politics that isn't bad. But the mainstream people aren't doing it, guys, obviously. Okay? There are good reasons to play the political game. I even said it during this election. We're going to jump into the political bubble for a second to make sure that we're being clear about our focus. Our focus is to move closer to a future where liberals and progressives are the ones arguing about what to do next, not conservatives. We do not want conservative policy anywhere near the future of America. But it won't happen in our lifetime if we stop fighting for it. It might not even happen in our lifetime if we continue fighting for it. But this is where humans are. That's why we have to zoom out to the macro and accept that we're like little biological animals evolved over time on a planet doing our best. And people are on a journey. It takes people their own time to come to realizations about what to do next. Myself included. You know? So we need to move away from even engaging with these centrist ideas that like Republicans have a few good points. No, they don't. Like Love is Blind, Dave told, I think Lauren or Molly, I don't remember, probably Lauren. He's like, yeah, like I understand wanting lower taxes and wanting abortion rights. Like Republicans aren't going to lower your taxes unless you're uber rich. So I don't know why you keep saying that's a Republican policy when it's just a talking point.
which is what he's doing, as like a legitimate governing party. Hassan, the terrorist supporter as well, who is also very white. Don't ever be mistaken by his background or the way he looks sometimes, depending on what he's trying to present. Hassan is also one of the whitest people in the West, okay?
One of the whitest people in the West. He's one of the whitest people in the West, folks. You've never seen a whiter guy than this Hassan guy. Ultimately, we don't need to take people like Destiny seriously. Zionists criticizing Hezbollah is not doing so in good faith. Obviously, he is a Zionist. He supports the genocidal Israeli regime and opposes resistance to it, which is what Hezbollah is. The group exists as a response to Israel's repeated colonial killing sprees in Lebanon, which are not terrorism, apparently, because Israel's the good guys. So he's not a person we need to take seriously.
See, when you're the good guy, you're not a terrorist, you're a freedom fighter. Or you're standing up for what's right. That's the irony of people. When I do it, it's good. That's why I say do not become ugly because they become ugly. It does not become good when you do it because you think of yourself as the hero.
Any of these conversations on what needs to be done. That's the sort of criticism trap here on YouTube. You know, a guy who isn't a part of your movement criticizing your movement. I don't like having to even bring him up. I honestly just like that white boy's clips. I thought it was funny.
One of the whitest people in the West. Subhuman, Neanderthal, knuckle-dragging, white dipshits.
So I'll look at some more of this stuff in future video responses. I'm going to split them up point by point and see if we can dive a little deeper into these topics. I think that has potential to be worth it, but we'll see. Today, though, I want to look at just a few of the common arguments I saw from Ethan Klein, his supporters, and other participants of this campaign. And because this video is more influencer drama focused, I'm going to take that opportunity to do a sponsor now. That's when I'll do them, when I'm talking about random internet micro celebrities. For as long as I need to do them, which hopefully isn't much longer. Support me on Patreon to make them stop. There's been an escalation in the trend of crackdowns over free speech and the right to protest in America. The US government and intelligence agencies have the ability to deploy warrantless surveillance against anyone. This is done through things like Section 702, geofencing warrants, sales to data brokers, and national security letters, all of which are used by the government to bypass the judicial system to monitor your communications. Basically, if big tech has access to your information, so does the US government, which is an issue if you want to be protesting that government. This is why I'm excited to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Proton Mail. Unlike the majority—
Hold on, Noah, we love you. Chad says, what do you think a sovereign state should do when it's being bombed? What do you think that question means? So this is a philosophy channel. We're here to deconstruct our own belief systems. What do you think you're asking me? And I might sound a little combative because that sounds like a troll comment, right? What do you think you're asking? Are you a regular Joe Schmo? You work at a 9 to 5 like the rest of us? What do you think that means? Because my brain goes, who's being bombed? Why are they being bombed? Who's in charge? Who's paying for the bombs? Right? What do you mean? Do you mean in general? Do you mean specifically? Do you mean in reality? Do you mean in the great year of our Lord, FKA Twigs 2025? What do you mean? What do you think a sovereign state should do when it's being bombed? What does that even mean? You mean you're going to say like, oh, you're going to say like Israel's being bombed by Palestine? All the rockets that go over and hit their dome? By the way, did you hear Trump wants a gold dome? Trump is like a child with money who's like, we could have anything we wanted. Or are you talking about the fact that, you know, Palestine is being bombed, right? Like, I don't know what you're asking when you ask that question. I don't care about men and their politics and their like encouragement of bombings. This is a man's problem because men create the problems. Women create a lot of problems, but we have to admit, let's be real. All these acts of violences, that's not us. I didn't do that. So why are there even being bombs why are we even killing each other in the first place? Right? That's an human-animal problem. That's a biological organism problem. Okay? Are you asking me what we should do when people with money bomb other countries or people with no money bomb other country? I don't know what you're asking. No war is justified. But sometimes it's necessary. Like a justified evil. No form of human violence is necessary, but we still engage with it. Now, necessary is a hard word. We have to deconstruct it. What is necessary? You could say self-defense is necessary. I would agree with you. Why is it even needed in the first place? I think we look at violence. We never go back to the beginning. We only look at what's happening, which I agree. To some extent, we have to. But I want you guys to ask yourselves, why are we even in this position in the first place? Look, my channel is different than every other channel, which is why some people are unsatisfied with it, because I don't give you the satisfaction you're looking for. With they're bad and we're good, most people are bad because most people do bad. We have to do less bad in the world. And we don't know how to do less bad in the world because we first don't even categorize ourselves as bad. Though I think all of us are good in doing our best. And yes, that sounds contradictory, but it actually makes perfect sense. Because from a humanitarian perspective, we're all just like little animals trying our best. But the impact of us trying our best is a lot of bad. Your best just isn't good enough. but it's good enough, right? In the same way I wouldn't ask a dog to be better than a dog could, or a bear. Okay? Chat says you go between two perspectives of not caring but having an opinion. I mean, if you don't care, why watch the video? You won't watch the video, no? We care about different things. I care about moving humanity or giving humanity tools to move in a better direction that doesn't depend on them rooting their reality in a construct that I don't think should exist in the first place. I care about us deconstructing constructs. People care about keeping constructs going so they can feel good about themselves. I'm not interested in that. I do care. I just care for different reasons. It's like when homophobes say they care about children, so they're anti-trans or anti-gay. Yeah, we care for different reasons when we say we care about kids. When I say I care about kids, I mean all children. When they say they care about kids, they mean cis kids, and they mean straight kids, and they mean their kids. They don't mean other people's kids, okay? So when we move through the world and we deconstruct these constructs, you have to decide what perspective you're coming from. Humanity is what it is. It's having a biological experience, and it's on this planet, and we're figuring it out. But we're not going to keep figuring it out if we keep pointing the blame and blaming everybody else, though some people are definitely more responsible than others, right? Chad says, don't we need to see both sides to come to the truth? One side might be very objectively wrong, but it helps us to fight that if we understand the perspective. There are no both sides. Both sides is a talking point of a political construct. Both sides isn't a real phenomenon. So we say both sides as a shortcut to explain a both sides argument to things like, you know, flat earth or homophobia or racism. We understand there are no actual both sides. Both sides is a talking point that's used in political bubbles to convince you there's two sides to an argument when there's not two sides to an argument. There are never just two sides, first of all. And when you sit there and you make it binary, right, we run the risk of not being nuanced enough, right? Oh, you're referring to another comment. My bad. What you want to do is you want to see, first, here's my recommendation for people who might want to expand on that idea. We're not looking at two sides of the story. We're looking at the possibility of figuring out the most truth with the best data and accepting outcomes, but also challenging those outcomes. It is never bad to challenge an outcome, but it can be bad to challenge an outcome at the expense of everybody else. So in order to do less harm and in order to do less bad, we must challenge without it being at the expense of other people. So when people say, well, why don't you listen to conservatives and take into account that they might be saying something good about race realism? Your race realism comes at the expense of most of the world. So your race realism has no place in the world if it comes at the expense of the world, right? It has a place in terms of debunking bad information, but we need to have real conversations about the fact that this is coming at the expense of other people. You know what I mean? I don't want to play, IQ race realism in the debate sphere. Like, I don't think we should be debating whether or not brown people's IQ plays a role in, this is all a distraction from what we could potentially unlock when it comes to a human, like a species. We are so amazing as a species, and we distract ourselves and we limit ourselves with all of this bad data and all of this bad information because of our bias and prejudice that we refuse to deconstruct. I'm not interested in having those conversations with people. You know what I did this weekend? I listened to, that girl, Ellie? She came on the vegan girl who came on my stream the other day, Vegan Gaze. She had a live stream the other day, and I tried to listen to it, just to see what it was like because I wasn't sure. And it was the worst panel of people trolling and just saying, like, the meat eaters had the worst arguments, and they were just basically trolling. And I just thought, man, this is so shitty. You know what I mean? It's so exhausting. This is why I don't like the debate space. Because, you're not serious about ideas. You're not serious about growth. You're not serious about the data. And it was so frustrating to see her and the other vegans, even try to hear people out. And I was like, you are so annoying. These callers are so annoying. And this is what I mean to say about people, though. Your job is to radically accept that this is people and this is humanity. Then your job is to create a space that allows a open with boundaries relationship with these types of people, right? The reason I'm traditionally so strict about interacting with people in my audience and people coming in is because, YouTube debate spaces especially, they are some of the most bad faith spaces. And this is why progressives won't interact with it. Everyone always says, well, why won't progressives? That's why when I was interacting with the debate space, my progressive people were like, Brittany, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm being good faith, guys. And they're like, oh my God, you're going to regret this. And they're right. My progressive people were right. I did regret it. It was a horrible experience. Those people were literally so bad faith. It was a huge regret. But good thing we don't worry about regrets. We just move forward and learn lessons. I was warned. I was warned by progressives, like, stop interacting with them. And I was like, I'm going to be good faith about it. And like, oops. Oops. Hey, I will never fault myself for being compassionate or open-minded, but I will put limitations. And this is the irony about that space. When I was there, they were angry at me and hated me, made tons of hate content about me. Now that I'm not there, they're like, wow, I can't believe you're not engaging with us. Are you afraid? It's like, well, I was there and you guys didn't welcome me. And now that I'm not there, they're still mad at me. It's like, make a decision. This is why I say you have to be careful about who you engage with. Meet people where they're at, but don't overextend yourself. And I feel like a lot of people expect you to overextend yourself. They do, with no good faith.
Majority of other email platforms, Proton Mail is end-to-end encrypted with zero access encryption, meaning that emails from non-Proton Mail accounts are encrypted with your public key before reaching your inbox, which ensures that no one but you can access them. This keeps you totally immune from data breaches and surveillance. Most popular messaging apps offer this kind of end-to-end encryption, but many major big tech email services do not, like Gmail, for example. Proton Mail allows you to create email aliases whenever you sign up for new websites to hide your real email address, which you can easily deactivate if they're ever revealed in data breaches or start receiving spam. They offer other helpful features like email scheduling, tracking link blocking, and inbox cleaning. Switching to Proton Mail is really easy. You can import past emails seamlessly and forward Gmail messages to your new Proton Mail address, or you can start fresh with a clean slate. It's up to you. Proton Mail has over 100 million users and is 100% funded by customer subscriptions, and all services are completely ad-free. They operate out of Switzerland, where they benefit from robust privacy laws. Proton got started with a public crowdfunding campaign and is owned by the Proton Foundation, which is a nonprofit dedicated to ensuring privacy and data protection. Sign up for free using my link at proton.me/Noah Samson to protect your privacy and also support the channel. All right, back to the video now. In this Instagram story, Ethan asks the question, when did I ever support a genocide?
When did we ever back a genocide?
I'm sorry.
When? Like, show me.
I have an answer to that. Let's go over it once again. Ethan Klein was the primary signal booster for the smear campaign against pro-Palestine activists that was orchestrated by a group of openly genocidal Zionists during the active genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. Every point raised in his content nuke video was borrowed directly from Destiny and his community regarding Hassan's alleged terrorism support, his alleged anti-Semitism, and his alleged extremist views.
Hassan uncritically interviewed this kid for about an hour. It was the most brazen display of disgusting terrorist propaganda that I have maybe ever seen in Western media. Okay, fine. He likes Hamas. He watches their propaganda, but he's not going to deny the violent rapes that took place. That is way beyond the pale.
Ethan himself, in this very stream, reveals that he is aware of Destiny's comments that openly endorse the genocide of Palestinians.
The only person he's probably not defaming here would be Destiny because of his comment about, he said, I believe in genocide. He said, I think, and during one conversation, like that the Palestinians should just leave.
I mean, if you're an Israeli who thinks better Palestinian babies dead than our babies dead, you're also pro-genocide. If you're like an Israeli who says, I'm going to show you how beautiful Israel is and how good it is, like, you are pro-genocide. Like, if you're a person who, like, in some aspect, in this particular case, given the way that things are. Now, the United States is a little bit different in a sense, but at the same time, you could use the Iraq War as an example. If you were pro going into Iraq and doing what we did and destabilizing them, like, yeah, you were ultimately pro killing all of those people from Iraq ultimately, right? And that includes my fucking family who did vote for Trump twice. You know what's so funny is, like, during 9/11, my parents were all about it. My brothers both served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And now, all these years later, my dad's like, I can't believe we got tricked into killing all those Iraqis. I was like, I know, our own people. We got tricked into killing all those people. That's so horrible. And he's like, yeah. Also, I voted for Trump twice. And I'm like, ugh. Like, you think you would learn. But people have a really hard time doing that, you know? Right? That says, why do we need to be charitable to people who think that we should die? Great question. Look, you know what I think I'm learning so much as a person? And this is hard because I really was raised as a girl. Okay, I might be a man, but I was raised as a girl. You know what I'm saying? And I really think you know, this is the flawed nature in all of us, right? I'm no better than anybody else. I think we're told to be compassionate as people stab us. We're told to think of their humanity as they take away ours. We're convinced and raised to believe it's our job to show them love and compassion with our arms open wide as they stab us, and we die with a smile on our face because we love. And I think we forget that that isn't our job. Like, that is the job of a therapist. That is the job of a doctor. That is the job of somebody else. And when women and femme people start recognizing, like, this is not our job, yes, men will retaliate. Even Jordan Peterson said, these men, what are we going to do without all these murderous, suicidal men? Men will retaliate. Jordan Peterson has warned us. Jordan Peterson, okay? Even he has said men will retaliate with violence if enough women reject them. And you wonder why women have a reason to be afraid of men when men themselves are saying you should be afraid of us. And at the same time being upset that women are afraid of them. Well, y'all are not doing such a great job for your branding. Okay? So I do think all of us need to work on making sure people go in the right direction. I remember I had a man one time yell at me. He was like really upset with my political takes. And I said, I think you need to go to therapy. And he was like, what? He's like, I think your mental health is like deteriorating. I think you're mentally ill. And I was like, I think you need to go to therapy because you are yelling at me over a political take. And because you don't agree with it and you feel attacked by it, you are coming at me right now. I cannot help you with this. I can't help you with this. And it's difficult because when you look at somebody you love and you tell them, I love you, I can't meet you here. You have to go see somebody who's a professional. They either take that with, okay, yeah, I'll go do that. Or they, you know, don't talk to you, which at this point, I have 3 men in my life who don't talk to me. But all the women all went to therapy and they're doing great. And our relationships are better than ever. So I'll be real with you. That is my lived experience. My lived experience, anecdotal, is that the men in my life get mad and don't talk to me. Well, the women in my life get therapy and our relationships are better than ever. Better than ever. Because when I said go to therapy, they didn't hear, I don't want to help you. They heard, I love you enough to be honest with you. I can't help you. Please, let's get a doctor let's get a professional. Let's get a medical professional. They heard, thank you, girl, for looking out for me. I'll go do that. At the end of the day, it's not about the gender you were born as or have a lived experience as. It's not about your gender. It's about how society has formed you and told you you have to be because of that gender. And right now, men have been told for many years that people, women especially, should put up with them, carry the load of their emotional baggage. And men have turned it around. Men have said, like, what about me? I have to put up with the women in my life. Yeah, so you're on the other side of it. You're having the other experience, which is not the majority experience, by the way, but you're having the other experience, which is you have a woman in your life that's extra toxic, won't go to therapy, and in every way they show you like attention, it's not, you don't feel seen by them. Okay, that's a real experience too, right? You have the naggy wife. Okay, cool. Divorce her. Move on with your life. But you won't, will you? Right? Or maybe she's nagging you and she's really negative. Or maybe she's actually like, hey, I love you. Can we try to get this done? And you're like, you're nagging me. The dilemma is I don't know which one you're in. You have to ask yourself, am I in an actual marriage where I'm truly being nagged and I'm being like basically abused and I should leave? Or am I actually is my partner advocating for themselves and I'm ignoring it? Right? Same with Ethan. Am I pro-Palestinian just because I donated $6,000? Or am I actually pro-Israeli because I keep pushing their propaganda? I just think it's funny that Ethan was like, Hassan hasn't done much for Palestine. Oh, he raised $1 million. Okay, I donated $6,000. And I'm like, what good is your $6,000 if it comes with a kiss of betrayal, Judas? What good is you saying I'm not pro-genocide and I'm pro-Palestinian when your kiss comes with a betrayal, Judas? Okay? Why? Why should we believe you? And by the way, just a reminder that Jesus' apostles were children. They were literally like 19 to 25 or like 28. They were literally children. Judas was like, I know what I'll do. I'll push the hand and force Jesus to show people he's the king. I got this, bestie. Judas! Judas! Hello!
So if you're talking about defamation, that's like an easy out, right? For legally speaking.
So that's one way to back genocide, is by functionally collaborating with an openly genocidal Zionist who you know is openly genocidal on a video that reached over 3 million people exclusively using arguments and out of context clips that were compiled by the community.
Chat says, ha ha ha, I don't get what you want Ethan to do. Stop threatening to sue Noah. Okay, stop threatening to sue YouTubers who disagree with you and are calling you out. Stop getting in people's business. Understand that like this whole thing of deplatforming YouTubers for having differing opinions than you, like what are you doing? What are you doing? See how I tell you in a reality of a conservative, okay, you don't exist in their ideal world, but they exist in ours. In our ideal world, everybody exists because everybody's free to exist. In their ideal world, we don't exist. This is the irony. This is the irony
of that openly genocidal Zionist. The other major way that Ethan backed the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza with his video was by spreading atrocity propaganda narratives that the Israeli state, military, and its backers in the West have used as rhetorical justification for their genocidal actions. This backing precedes Ethan's content nuke, as he was one of the first major content creators to spread the 40 beheaded babies hoax.
They found 40 dead fucking babies at this kibbutz where like tons of people got killed. Now, I don't know if they were beheaded, okay? And some people really care about that detail. So to me, the 40 babies is enough.
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
A false claim that he has yet to rescind or apologize for making. In the content nuke, he doubles down with this sort of propagandizing for the state of Israel by spreading the Hamas mass rapes hoax. He cited the documentary from Sheryl Sandberg that relied on testimony made under duress in Israeli detainment centers and unverified claims from witnesses.
Earlier this year, former Facebook executive Sheryl Sandberg produced a documentary that was screened at the White House and on Capitol Hill.
We covered this on a stream.
Last year, Hamas committed horrific acts of sexual violence. Sheryl, I thank you for all your work to bring to light the horrors of this issue and for your film about what happened on October 7.
Oh, wait, no, I'm confusing it with something else. My bad.
The way that Sandberg proved her case, shockingly, was significantly through the use of coerced interrogation videos. The documentary, of course, won praise in the pages of the New York Times and is, to this day, sitting on the White House website. The White House website now says, quote, preventing and responding to conflict-related sexual violence is a top priority for President Biden and Vice President Harris. Since October 7th, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and our entire administration have consistently condemned Hamas' horrific sexual violence. On June 17th, the Vice President...
You can't be perfect, and this is what people don't understand. This is why I don't like politics. First, you can't be perfect, but you have to do better. It's about harm reduction, right? So I can't be perfect, right? If I voted for Harris, did I vote for a genocide? Technically. In the same way that when I pay my tax dollars, that's why I do so much verbal work, because the best thing I can do is make it clear to people we're moving in a direction, because I radically do accept where we are right now. I radically accept the fault, like the issues humans have right now. Same thing with fast fashion and veganism and everything else. Like no one's going to be perfect. So we have to harm reduce. It is worse for Palestinians to deal with Trump than Harris. Not by much, but by enough. And I think we should pay attention to those details. Do I fault people for not voting for Harris when they felt like that was the loudest way they could advocate for themselves? No, because humans are going to human, right? Humans do what they do because they think it's right at every point. Bad people, good people, all of us. All of us do things because we think it's right. So until we wake up and face ourselves and decide, like, is this the right thing to do? This is a journey. Figuring out if this is the right thing to do is difficult. Right? And so again, the reason I don't like politics is because it's like, it's about winning, whatever works, like whatever you have to do to win. And I don't want to do whatever it takes to win. I want to do the right thing, which is why philosophy is so much better in some ways, because it's only you. I can't control the world, and I never was meant to. Neither were you. But we can do so much more in our own individual lives than we could ever think of. Again, you don't have to do, and I don't want you to feel like, oh, Brittany's doing this thing in her life, so I have to do it. Don't. But I do think it's pretty cool that people in my comments were saying like, oh, I'm trying like veganism or vegetarianism or plant-based because of your 30-day video. Cool. Please don't make it like, I don't want you to do it because I'm doing it. I just think it's cool to share where I am and what I'm experimenting with, and just my own journey, right? Because that's the whole point of sharing, I think. But if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you, right? P.S. My husband did find, she's such a good wife, she did find a restaurant in Croatia that had a Beyond Burger meat, Beyond Burger. And I was like, shut up. So we got ourselves some burgers the other day and it was really, really good. Very expensive and definitely like outside the budget, but on occasion would be a great treat. And I also did find some vegan frozen food. Again, very expensive, like so much money, but really good. The chicken nuggets were superior. The vegan chicken nuggets, mwah, so good that my partner was like, I might switch to these full time because like we do love our chicken nuggets in this neurodivergent home, you know, but it's expensive. So, you know, I'm going to stick to my normal diet, but on occasion, I definitely will order for funsies. That will be like the treat, like our treat. You know what I mean? But yeah, I did find not Beyond Meat frozen, but I found a vegan brand in Croatia that has frozen food. And so it was really good. You know what I mean? All of this to say, it's a journey. We're learning. Nothing's perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's not about pointing at someone and saying, the reason I was able to be in the debate bro bubble for so long was because I was waiting to see if anybody would be worth, like if anybody was going to actually be open-minded and curious. And guys, how many of them were not? Wasn't that shocking? But not really. Like, wasn't it kind of shocking, but not really? None of them, not a single one of them truly challenged themselves that year. Humans, that's what I say when I say, like, no offense to the world, it only moves at the pace it can. So I really try not to burden myself with the person walking slowly. I walk past them and I keep moving. You know, if people want to grab onto your arm and walk with you, that's great. But eventually, if they slow you down enough, girl, you know what I'm saying?
Hosted an event at the White House, which included a panel discussion and remarks by advocates and survivors of CRSV from around the world, and a partial screening of Sheryl Sandberg's documentary Screams Before Silence on Hamas's sexual violence on October 7th. Now, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, B'Tselem, and Physicians for Human Rights Israel all rejected the use of hostage interrogation videos in the months after October 7th. And most news outlets chose to reject their use as well, citing the likelihood that confessions were extracted by torture. Sheryl Sandberg, the White House, and Hamas have all gone a different direction.
Now, my point about this propaganda claim seems to have been misconstrued by some viewers of my video. The claim in question is not that rapes occurred, rather that Hamas systematically weaponized sexual violence during the attacks. This was the claim spread by mainstream news outlets like the New York Times.
See how Hamas weaponized sexual violence on October 7th. Screams without words. We are big advocates for victims of sexual violence. But weaponizing our trauma for your political propaganda, absolutely fucking not. And that's what's at stake here, is that our sexual trauma, the sexual violence perpetrated onto people are being used as a political tool, not to advocate for those victims, but to use them to push an agenda to genocide a whole group of people who didn't deserve it. Listen to me when I say this. Nothing worse than having the thing that happened to you used by someone who doesn't give a fuck, weaponized to convince everyone else to allow violence to occur to somebody who's innocent. And that's what they're doing. Again, we're looking for like latest news results. Has Ethan gone after Gabor Mate? He probably wouldn't, right? Because Gabor is actually an adult. You know what I mean? Gabor is actually an adult. But that's why we have to be careful. We have to be careful about the way that things are used in propaganda. And everyone propagandas. Propaganda is not necessarily bad or negative. It's pushing an agenda. And when people have an agenda, they might use that's why I don't like politics, any means possible to winning, even lying. And I don't want to do that.
And used by the US government and the Israeli government as a pretext for blowing up occupied apartment buildings to target low-level Hamas commanders. The UN report that was released and cited widely by defenders of Israel as evidence that this is true says the opposite. The mission team was unable to establish the prevalence of sexual violence and concludes that the overall magnitude, scope, and specific attribution of these violations would require a fully fledged investigation. Ethan's citation of the conclusion to this report, point 86, that there are, quote, reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred at several locations, does not at all verify the claims made in his video in the central piece of evidence which he cited for it, which was Sheryl Sandberg's propaganda film.
What happened on October 7th was mass, systematic, planned rape and genital mutilation of women.
Nor in all the places that systematic sexual violence was alleged against Hamas, which it was many, many places, mainstream places. This conclusion also does not contradict anything Hassan has ever said about October 7th. In every clip cited in the video, Hassan is talking about the systematic rapes claim.
The systematized mass rapes that Hamas dealt on October 7th Not a single bit of that has been verified.
The clip that was cited repeatedly by Ethan, what he seemed to think was a smoking gun,
downplaying the violence, specifically the sexual violence, which he's done a lot.
Chat says Ethan is a meme drama YouTuber podcaster who is dumb. Well, I don't know why people want him to be a political commentator now. He is putting his business in he's putting his nose in everyone's butts right now. And he's threatening to sue people. He's threatening to sue Noah for the video he made, saying he's pro-genocide because he's pro-Israel. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to be, this is why Ethan, that's why people, even me, have to talk about Ethan at some point, because he becomes a threat to everybody. This isn't funny. Ethan is literally a threat to all of us. Ethan is setting a precedent that if you are wealthy enough and you have enough time on your hands, then I get to go after you for defamation. That's the start of this video. As Ethan says, his lawyers are looking over Noah's content, and if there's even an ounce of like a case, he's going to take him to court for defamation. Look, especially for small content creators, like, we don't have the budget to take defamation cases. And by the way, Ethan used to be one of those small content creators. Ethan used to not have the budget to fight it either because it was $130,000. And how did he make that money? Philip DeFranco, the community, all of us came and rallied behind him. People from the community rallied behind Ethan because another YouTuber was getting him for defamation, which he won that case, right? So that's what I mean. Like, Ethan isn't just some drama commentator. Now he's a threat to the ecosystem. And he thinks he's the good guy. As he advocates for people to get thrown off the platforms, as he advocates that going after smaller YouTubers or YouTubers of any size because of defamation, when it's at most a political difference and obviously true, you can say you're not pro-genocide when you stop pushing Israeli propaganda. You know? That says maybe he's annoyed at being called a genocidal person. That's like a homophobe being mad they're like being called a homophobe because they don't see themselves at one. Get over it. You are. By our definition of our bubble, you are. Because of the way we describe words, the way we communicate, if you believe in Israeli propaganda, you are pro-genocide. If you buy into the propaganda, if you think all Palestinians should die, if you think if I could press a button, I would kill every Palestinian, which is what those two, whatever nice Jewish boys said on their podcast, that's the name of their podcast, that's pro-genocidal behavior. So for Ethan to say this summer, June, I'm going to take my kids to Israel to show YouTube how great Israel is, while they're committing a genocide, if you think Israel is truly committing a genocide, why would you go there? Tell me how you would go. Okay, put it like this. Ethan is saying he's pro-Palestine and he thinks they're being genocided and he's not pro-genocide. And yet he wants to take us to Israel to show us how wonderful it is. That is like saying, I know Hitler's killing the Jews, but do y'all want to check out Germany right now? Because it's fire. Nobody knows Germany like I know Germany. It's fire. Let's all go on vacation to Germany, y'all. Well, Hitler is killing the Jews. That is what he is doing right now. You are really living long enough to see yourself become the villain, bro. Okay? This is not the time to go to Israel and do propaganda.
Doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much. So that's the other part of this problem that many people can't contend with. Like, the Palestinian resistance is not perfect. They're not like so good. They have magical bullets.
Ethan's presentation of this clip is dishonest, though.
It doesn't even matter. None of this justifies that Palestinians have a right to dignity, a right to emancipation, a right to live fucking free lives, free from this occupation. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if fucking happened on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much.
Hassan isn't talking about sexual violence in a vacuum. He's talking about it in relationship with something else, in relationship with the struggle for Palestinian liberation. It's like saying that it doesn't matter if rapes occurred during a slave rebellion. That doesn't change the dynamic that slavery should still be abolished, which is an entirely uncontroversial statement, if you're against slavery, of course. Some noted that the UN report called for further investigation into these alleged crimes, and that's true, it did. However, further investigations have been repeatedly denied by only one party, and that party is Israel.
Why not put the responsibility and blame the atrocities quite simply on the perpetrators and say it was Hamas who did it?
When I accepted the invitation from the government of Israel, we had a number of meetings and we discussed the parameters and I explained clearly the purpose of the mission, which was only for the purpose of gathering, analyzing, and verifying information.
But still, it is pretty clear who did it after talking to survivors and hostages returned, right? It wasn't the Belgians who did it. It's pretty clear.
I understand the frustration of the people of Israel. I mean, I saw I was distressed when I came to Israel because I saw a traumatized nation. So I understand the frustration, but I think it's up to your government to give access, and that's one also of my first recommendation.
What's interesting is that Ethan has showed some level of skepticism for these sorts of allegations before, but only when the victims were Palestinian.
Palestinian females freed from Israeli detention said more than 15 fellow Palestinian women were raped by Israeli interrogators to force them to confess to charges leveled against them and collaborate with the Israeli intelligence. Quote, Israeli investigators and intelligence officers keep videotapes of raping to blackmail the female detainees. So according to, I guess, this website, this doesn't seem like super credible, at least, or it might be credible.
You have an issue with CARE or Islam.net or the...
Well, what is this?
The lack of...
listen, that's a huge claim. 15 Palestinian women were raped.
Mm-hmm.
I was sexually abused in photographs, she said. But like, what? I don't know what this is. What is this?
What do you mean?
Is this a source?
You're asking if it's credible.
Yeah, yes, CARE is credible. I think, at least.
What is
CARE is
There's no source. There's like nothing here. Like shit. I mean, that's a pretty extraordinary claim. I mean, fuck. Like, it's serious to say that the Israeli apparatus is using rape systemically to oppress the Palestinians.
On March 13th, the United Nations released a report called More Than a Human Can Bear, which concluded that it's actually Israel who is guilty of this crime, the use of systematic sexual violence, along with various other gender-related crimes like the deliberate targeting of reproductive healthcare facilities and violence against women and girls, all of which amount to crimes against humanity and acts of genocide. This report is absolutely damning. Everything that the US government, the State of Israel, the New York Times have ever accused Hamas of doing, Israel is guilty of with actual proof. Despite this, the Western media has been silent. In what little coverage the report is receiving, the findings are being downplayed in a repulsive manner. The New York Times, for example, let's just read how they covered it. The Israel is guilty of genocidal mass rape report. The headline reads, UN accuses Israel of targeting reproductive health facilities in Gaza. A report by a UN committee found that Israel has committed genocidal acts intended to prevent births. Israel quickly rejected the findings as biased. Thanks for the heads up on that. Okay, so no mention in the headline or the subheading of the systematic mass rape and sexual violence campaign by Israeli forces. It just groups those in with the genocidal acts there. And then an immediate citation of Israel's defense. Incredible. Let's read on. A United Nations commission on Thursday accused Israel of targeting hospitals and other health facilities in Gaza that provide reproductive services, including an IVF clinic where thousands of embryos were destroyed in what it called an effort to prevent Palestinian births. The report by the UN Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory called that and other actions that cause harm to women and girls, quote, genocidal acts, and accused Israel of punishing Palestinians collectively for the Hamas-led October 7th, 2023 attack that killed 1,200 people. So that's how the New York Times reports mass rape campaigns from Israel. Other actions. Other actions. Which other actions? Mass rape? Weaponized sexual violence? Credible evidenced allegations this time? No. You'll have to wait a bit to hear about those. First, the IDF is speaking. Israeli officials have long accused the Rights Council of singling Israel out, arguing that UN officials and committees condemn the country with far greater frequency than it does dictatorships like North Korea. In February, Gideon Sa'ar, the Israeli foreign minister, said Israel would stop participating in the council, accusing it of demonizing Israel. The United Nations is Hamas, the United Nations is anti-Semitic. That's what Israel told us, and we're going to tell you what they told us uncritically because the New York Times. The first time the word rape is used in this article isn't until 15 paragraphs in, and then when it's used, it's immediately followed with reporting that the accused were not ultimately indicted for any sexual offense, and that Israel says it doesn't do that actually, and that they follow the rules. I could scream. These people are fucking disgusting.
She was taken to Sidi Timan, and she was nude searched over and over again and filmed, and then she was raped twice by Israeli male soldiers, 2 of them at a time, while videotaping her. We have also one testimony of a woman who was also taken. She says she was also raped by an inspection device by a female soldier more than once. They inserted the inspection device in her rectum. We have also one testimony of a woman saying that she was strip searched and they would beat her on her behind and they would humiliate her in front of each other. Most of the women also who were taken from Gaza, West Bank and Jerusalem said they were beaten on their genitals, which has made it to conclude that there must have been a directive that's been given to the Israeli army to treat women in such manner, because in Jerusalem you're treated by completely different law enforcement than in Gaza or in the West Bank. But all these women said they were beaten on their genitals.
And I could just add on about the women who were forcibly disappeared in Gaza. Like I said before, it was usually as they were fleeing south through the safety corridor. They were abducted at the checkpoint. Many were taken.
Again, I just want to remind you that the new Palestinian documentary that just won awards, right? We just saw these people on stage in our America getting their global, Golden Globe or whatever. I don't follow that bubble, but you know what I mean? I haven't seen it yet. I really want to watch it. The No Other Land, exactly. One of the co-directors. So the guy on stage you're seeing is currently, he was wounded, taken by Israel, and we don't know where he is. Just think about that. Think about how he was just here and now he's gone. We don't know where he is. God forbid you know what It's like the doctor they took and then they threw his body out on the street and it was collected. Like, I don't know what's going to happen to this man, but the fact that he was just there. Chat says he was on Hassan's stream 3 weeks ago. Well, the same one who was kidnapped by Israel recently? The same one? That's what I'm saying. He was just here. This, like, it's this so devastating. I didn't know it was the same person. That's what I'm saying. Hamdan Bilal, thank you guys. I didn't know his name, but thank you. I have a bunch of TikToks saved to go over with you guys after this. I have a bunch of stories out of Palestine that I was going to share with you guys. Like, that's in case people don't know. Like, I don't, because I watch Al Jazeera, so I get a lot of like different. I watch a lot of the Palestinian coverage, and so I feel like a lot of people probably aren't watching those sources. It's devastating. And just think about, like, we're so afraid. Look at what's happening in the United States. People being taken, arrested, and just shipped off. Like, we have to be dead serious about these things affecting real people's lives. Like, this is where humans are. This is where our species has come. And this is why I say we have to do the work to deconstruct these things, because so much of life could change overnight. But at the same time, it can't, because, like, humans going to move at humans' paces. You know what I mean? But it's so devastating. It's so devastating. We're really not treating each other well. And look, you can come at me in chat and be like, I can't believe Brittany's being so rude. She's yelling at me. Listen to me when I say this, Habibi, please. You're upset that I'm raising my voice on stream because I'm upset people are being genocided and raped and assaulted and dehumanized to an extent that it's causing like mass violence to X group of people. And you can't handle me raising my voice on stream. Like, this is what I mean when I say, like, we need to get our shit together. You would rather I not raise my voice to a white nationalist or a misogynist because, oh, that's not kind. Well, you sit and advocate through your politics to target minority groups and people. So you're going to have to deal with me raising my voice while I deal with you advocating for the death and subjugation of people. Okay, we're going to have to meet each other in the middle a bit. You know what I'm saying? That's a joke. Because there's no meeting in the middle with, people who think brown people, women, disabled people are less than. Okay.
To the Zakim detention center and then Negev detention center altogether.
Okay, chat. I've let you stay for too long. You said I'm still wondering what Ethan's genocide supporter take is. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put you on timeout. Come back tomorrow.
In one large hall, forced to strip completely naked and just sit in this hall, the women amongst each other and the men amongst each other. And it's also been reported and known that Israeli civilians are invited to come to this detention center and mock the Palestinian prisoners while they're naked, photograph them, and watch them as if it's a zoo. So that's something that we've seen.
Also, when it comes to checkpoints, like I said, it's where the sexual violence happens and it goes unreported. So we have a testimony of a teenage girl who was made to undress a man. Because he refused to undress, they made her undress him, even though she's not related to him. She doesn't know who that man is. And while being searched and touched and molested on their breast and on their genitals as well.
The media has largely downplayed this report and its findings, but it does conclude that
Look, if you put into your propaganda that people are animals, and I don't mean in a scientific sense. So scientifically, we're all animals. Yes, all of my autistic people that love categorization, we are all animals. Yes, correct, in a biological sense. Okay. In a propaganda sense, on the micro, when you tell people these people are animals, and then you see the way we treat animals, you know what I'm saying? It feels justified. Did you see there was a video of people getting caught, like kicking animals in factory farms, torturing them, raping them, but they're just animals. Bestiality, though not common, is very ignored, I think, in the way that we don't think about it. Like, y'all are so concerned with people fucking animals. Hello, they're killing animals. Like, you're killing and beating them. You feel superior to them. So the reason humans use that propaganda is to make you feel justified in hurting people because they're animals. They're not even like you. You can torture them. You can kill them. You can kick them. You can rape them because they're beneath you. So when Netanyahu gets up here and calls them animals, it is not a mistake. Okay? It is not a mistake. It is on purpose. And it is to justify the way Israel continues to harass, harm, rape, sexually assault all of these people. And look, for any person, any person, regardless of gender, who commits sexual assault, okay? bad. Very bad. Okay? We all universally agree. And yet, America voted for Trump. And yet, McGregor is trying to get it, run for Ireland, run in the name of Ireland, right? And yet, Andrew Tate is welcomed by so many boys into their sphere. And yet, Debate Bro is still on the internet after he bragged about releasing new tapes he had secretly taped, or even with those girls' knowledge, spread them around without their consent. So remember, when you meet a person and you try to meet them in the middle, you try to see their humanity, remember that you might wake up one day and realize, oh, this person who I thought was just having kind of normal-ish problems or sort of bad problems is actually one of the predators. And that might even, the reality might even extend past a singular person into a whole government body. The rape and assault statistics in our U.S. military are insane. They're so bad, and we're not paying attention to it. Because it's too hard to contend with the idea that these are heroes. Look at us walking up to men in uniform, women in uniform saying, thank you for serving our country. Man, that's probably a rapist. Oh, don't take me out of context though, Ethan, or anybody else. I'm just saying the rates of sexual assault are so high, you're probably talking to one. And you don't even know it. And why should you know it? But it's possible. And that's what we have to remember is if we really contended with the statistics, if we were really honest with it, at the end of the day, your father voted for a rapist. Your bestie voted for a rapist. Somebody voted for Donald Trump, who was found liable. McGregor, who was found liable. The woman's tampon was so far up inside of her, she needed a doctor to use a surgical tool to get it out. She said she didn't want to have sex. She was on her period. He raped her. Shoved the tampon so far inside of her, she needed a doctor to help her get it out. Found liable. Not good enough for people. It doesn't matter how many of these men are exposed if you keep defending them. I mean, it matters to me, obviously. But to these people who keep defending them, to all the people that keep watching Destiny, and listen, again, you can try to come for the people in his life, myself included, who was friends with him very briefly on the internet for a second and claim that we should have known better. We didn't even know. But when we found out, a lot of us did the right thing. And mind you, my video about him came out before I found out about anything else that was going on. But when that video came out and the men in his life ended the relationships with him, but not because he was a predator, but because he didn't look good reputation-wise, that also said something to me. That people in his life didn't stop being his friend because he's a predator and a consent violator, but because he might not look good for business. People aren't as good as they think they are. Myself included. I should never have given space to men who treated women even slightly as badly as they did. But all these men are crying, give me a chance, give me a chance, be compassionate, be open-minded. So then we do it. As women, we do it. We extend our energy, we become open-minded, we try to help them. And what do? They share and leak our nudes. They spread misinformation about us. They assault us. They take advantage of us. They discredit us. They call us cluster Bs. They weaponize their status so we never get a chance to speak and be taken seriously. Defending yourself isn't misandry. We're not saying men are always this way. We're saying whatever made men this way, we need to get in front of it. And we're saying it's a construct. Feminism, okay? Feminists in general, who have a good understanding of moving things in a progressive direction, aren't interested in holding you accountable because of your gender. We're interested in holding society accountable for forming you into a bad person because of your gender. Men are being raised to be bad because they're gender? And that's what I'm trying to say to people. If you listen to progressive feminists, we're not trying to punish you because you're men. We're trying to deconstruct these constructs. But as long as you fight to keep these constructs in place, you will be seen as one of the bad ones. So until you deconstruct those things, cannot be one of the good ones. And one of the good ones, even that, you always think they're one of the good ones, but they're not. Discord said, don't forget that those people downplaying what he did, saying it was gooning problems. Exactly. The men around Destiny, who I wanted to give a chance to, I even DM'd some of those men and said, are you going to defend him? And they said, it's gooning. It's just a problem. I don't care that he's abusive. Okay, I'm done being friends with you now. And they were shocked. I can't believe you're ending our friendship over this. What do you mean? What do you mean? It keeps getting worse. So yeah, for all those people writing him off as like gooning, oh, he's just being silly, he's just horny. Okay, well, that horny dude violating consent, spreading nudes without consent, lying to people, God knows what else he's spreading, and on top of it, advocating for genocide. Cool, great combination, dude.
Israel is guilty of the most prominent accusation made against Hamas on October 7th, which is that it weaponized sexual violence systematically. Israeli security forces do this in a coordinated, intentional manner with the goal of subjugating, humiliating, and collectively punishing the Palestinian population. Will the people in this smear campaign acknowledge the existence of this report? Will they acknowledge that their unverified accusations against Hamas are verified actually by this report against Israel? I personally doubt it, but who knows?
It's serious to say that the Israeli apparatus is using rape systemically to oppress the Palestinians.
The other piece of Zionist propaganda cited by...
Oh, so it's crazy to think that Israel is using political violence in the form of rape, but definitely believable that Hamas is doing it. What if they're both not doing it, but they're both condoning rape in some aspects? Or what if we have to be so worried that even in wartime, men rape people? How do you even have time to rape somebody? I guess you have time because you're killing them. Any man that has the time to kill and then rape you, or rape and then kill you during wartime, I don't want anything to do with you. And by the way, let me just take you back to my conservative days with a really quick story that I've told, but I have a new audience. Some of you are new. Let me tell you the story. When I was really young, I was raised Republican and conservative because, I was raised in an immigrant home in which they're like the good immigrants in quotation marks because, they're conservatives. Okay, stay with me. And I was involved in talk radio, and I really wanted to be a talk radio host because I wanted to be the conservative lesbian. It's a joke now. Please bear with me. And we went in to film a promo. I went into the studio. I could have been the next Charlie Kirk, but instead, I was a progressive queer person who wants to deconstruct gender, but that's besides the point. I'm in this recording studio and I'm with these other conservatives, libertarians. We're like the kids on the right. We're like 19 to 25 or something like that. Maybe even up to 30, honestly. So we're sitting there in this recording booth at a real studio. Okay. And I asked them, I was like, well, what if one day I'm not a lesbian? What if I want to be something else? They're like, no, publicly, you're always one thing. That's why conservatives are so good at grifting. Right? Oh my God, Chad says in a different timeline, you would have been Ariel Scarcella. Yo, every clip of Ariel I see, I just want to, literally, so true. Okay, I'm sitting there and we're debating if women should be in combat, in war, infantry. And I'm debating this guy who's Christian, okay? Piece of shit. But anyways, and he goes, well, I don't think women should be serving on the battlefield because like men will be tempted to rape them. And I was like, why? And he goes, well, because you think you're dying. You only have one more chance. Like you're going to have sex with people, even if they don't want you to have sex with them. And I was like, yeah, but who would do that? And he was like, I think I would do that. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, think about it. Like, I think I'm dying. I think this is my last chance to have sex. Yeah, like I think I would do that. And I was like, you would rape somebody? And he's like, well, I mean, we're going to die. So I don't know about, I don't know what you want to call it, but I was like, rape. Like, I don't think they hear themselves. Like, I don't think these men hear themselves when they talk. And I was like, what? And like, they don't hear it though. They don't hear themselves. Nobody hears. And to be honest with you, you know what the worst part? I didn't even really hear him. I didn't really hear it. My human brain, like your human brain, does such a good job at being like, nah, he didn't mean it like that though. Nah, he can't mean it like that. Like the people who voted for Trump, he's like, yeah, but he's not really going to deport people. I was like, he's not really going to rape someone, right? Like, nah, he's not really going to rape somebody, right? Then, years later, I became a roommate with him. I know, hear me out. This is how fucked up I learned my lessons. I was his roommate. I was early 20s, maybe 20. How old would I have been? 20? 21? I don't know how old I was, but I was young. We were roommates together. And one day, because I was sleeping on the couch, because he was getting too handsy in bed, you know what I'm saying? So I was on the couch. I was like, I don't want to sleep in the same bed as you if you're going to be weird, bro. Because I didn't have a chance to get a second bed yet. It was a big bed. He goes from the doorway. He goes, one day I'm going to drag you into bed. I was a virgin, by the way. I was a virgin. Okay, I was a virgin until I was 22. I was a virgin. He goes, one day I'm going to drag you into bed and show you how a real man does it. I packed up my shit while he was at work and left. Flew on a plane and left. When I say it takes us time to learn when people tell us who they are, it takes me time to learn as much as anybody else. I am not trying to pretend that I am better than anybody else. I'm trying to warn you not to make the same mistakes I did. Not to make excuses for people's language and to accept that that's who they are. This happened to me like 15 years ago, right? I'm like almost 36 now. This happened to me so long ago. But listen to me when I say this. Don't make the mistakes I did. Don't make excuses for people's behavior because you think they don't mean it like that, though. You know how many people said that about Andrew Tate? Brittany, you don't get it. He doesn't mean it like that, though. I guess, maybe. Okay? Yeah. So this is why I say as we move into our 40s, we got to move away from edgy behavior, edgy jokes, edgy humor. Because in some ways, like there is no excuse when we're talking about serious issues to be making edgy jokes in some capacity. Now, it's not perfect because we're going to learn. I'm going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. But my lived experience isn't abnormal. Many people have this experience with people and we go on thinking, yeah, but not that person, right? Even though statistics show women are most in harm's way by a man in her life that she knows. So again, if I can do anything in sharing my stories, it's to remind you that even as somebody as arrogant as this Taurus in front of you can not only be duped and taken advantage of, but she can convince herself that he wouldn't rape me. He wouldn't really rape somebody, would he? Girl, I don't know. But he certainly wasn't a good person, you know?
Ethan in his video was his downplaying of the Nakba. He has participated in overt Nakba denial before.
1948. The War of Independence is called in Israel. Others know it as the Arab-Israeli War.
So I just want to note here that Ethan gave this supposed war 2 names there, but he missed one, the Nakba. And the Nakba is a very relevant and very apt name because the fact of the matter is that when this supposed war happened, the Palestinians had no real organization, no real funding, no really significant armed groups or leadership to protect them to fight back against the Zionist colonists, while the Zionist colonists had, for a very long time, organized terrorist groups, militias, etc. among them, which were extremely well funded by international organizations that they had formed, which were dedicated to funding and fomenting the Zionist colonization of Palestine. Hence, what Ethan Klein calls a war here actually started out as mass killings and expulsions by an organized military against the people who did not have one. The Nakba, contrary to the narrative of Ethan and Hila here, began before the intervention of the nearby Middle Eastern Arab states. It was a reaction to it, in fact. By the time of the Israeli Declaration of Independence, more than half of the people who were expelled in the Nakba had already been expelled.
After the partition plan to split the Palestine into a part Arab, part Jewish, as many of you probably know, every Arab country around Israel waged a war of annihilation.
Okay, so Ethan left the Nakba out of his narrative here entirely. That is absolutely inexcusable. It's like leaving the Holocaust out of World War II. It simply cannot be forgiven. It is abhorrent, honestly. It's the only way that his narrative can really hold up here as well.
But he does it again in the content nuke in a different way. He downplays the Nakba in the content nuke by equating it to Jewish expulsion from Muslim countries.
In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba. 1 million Jews.
This is done with misinformation, so he lies by omission regarding the nature of Jewish immigration to Israel. But even if he hadn't, this is on its face a piece of Zionist propaganda. Because being a refugee does not enshrine upon you some right to steal other people's land and make them refugees. That's what the settlement of Israel was, and any equivocation between that and other factors is a direct rhetorical justification for the crime.
The very premise behind it is obviously flawed, and presenting the partition plan as if it was not clearly a grave injustice is a rhetorical trick to then sort of implant this idea that what Israel did was legitimate. They were just abiding by the plan, apparently, even though they broke every single thing that was stipulated in it, and that it is the fault of the Palestinians for...
And, you know, the thing that the 100-Year War, the Palestinian book, when I read it, you know, I think what I learned about Palestine from my limited understanding is they were not only promised to be taken care of, but wholly ignored by everyone who said they would protect them. And this isn't just a country, it's a people. It's people, real people, like real people's lives, real people's children, real people's grandparents, real people's heritage and culture. Like, we have to remember that when we talk about Palestine and Israel and things getting established, we have to remember we're talking about people's lives, like people's real lives, you know? And I think that's why my heart like goes out for Palestine since the beginning of the establishment of Israel, because since the establishment, they have been neglected and bullied and just taken advantage of. Like, people took advantage of them. And it's absolutely horrible. It's just like a absolutely horrible display of human beings like them seeking out power. Because that's what it was, right? That's what it always is. You know? Yeah, I really like, you guys should read the book. It's really good. But like, I know very little, and just the little I know breaks my heart. The very little I know, my heart is breaking. Imagine if you knew everything that a lot of these content creators do because they research it, or a lot of the people who dedicate their life to knowing about it. What about the Palestinians who are there themselves experiencing it, you know?
For rejecting obviously untenable things like this, rather than just giving up more than half of their country to new arrivals for their own exclusive use. And it's especially ironic that Zionists love to cite the partition plan as somehow legitimizing when they reject like literally every other UN prescription or decision, binding or not, ever made on the subject of Israel-Palestine aside from it.
The last main point on Ethan's support of the genocide in Gaza is his effort to delegitimize resistance to that genocide. He spends a good deal of time in this video going after Hezbollah and Ansar Allah, literally calling them the bad guys.
All right, so these guys are clearly the bad guys.
I feel like I already touched on this a bit in this video and the last one, but what struck me about this section was just the brazen lies about these groups, spreading the ridiculous claim that Hezbollah is responsible for the entirety of the death toll of the Syrian civil war, while also changing all of those deaths, which included combatants, to civilians, and accusing them of genocide.
They participated in the slaughter of over 500,000 Syrian civilians, and they killed hundreds of thousands of civilians in what can only be described as a genocide.
No one does this. I don't know where this came from, but it's just legitimately a bizarre claim to make. Or his false claims about the Houthis, that the hostages taken from the Galaxy leader had not been seen or heard from since the genocide began.
I'd like to remind everybody that the crew that's kidnapped in this video has been missing for over a year now, with zero updates on their health, whereabouts, or anything. That lines up with leftist values.
That's not true.
It's literally not true.
Were confirmed to be in good health by visits from humanitarian organizations, or just lying about the nature of their attacks, as if the Houthis are attacking these ships for any reason other than what they're doing it for.
Oh, and keep in mind that when Hamas or Houthi or whoever, when they have hostages, and if the hostages don't come back perfect and in great health, it's like, oh, the end of the world, this is proof of your abuse. But Israel can give back their hostages literally starved to death. Have you seen this video? I don't even know if I have it saved. Did you see the video? Man, I don't even know how to find it. Oh, I don't even know how to find it. There was a video. They call Palestinians prisoners, but they're hostages taken to Israel. This man was released with the exchange, starved. Guys, so thin. I've never seen, he made Eugenia Cooney look like she was big. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was so starved. Where is the justification for giving this man back? Right? Where's the justification in taking all these Palestinians in the first place? Where is the director of this film? I'm so mad. Like, what are you talking about? This is what I'm saying. The hypocrisy is so fucked up that, like, everyone is taking hostages, but when they take hostages, they're held to a higher standard. And it's bullshit. No, first of all, no one should be taking hostages. You're all fucked up. But the reason people take hostages is because, and let's be so fucking for real, Israel started it. I don't want to point fingers, but Israel fucking started it. Okay? And they took hostages and they called them prisoners so they could justify torturing them. Do you know what I mean? This is the bullshit. This is the propaganda. There's nothing for Palestinians to do. What do you want them to do? You won't listen to them. You put people in a corner, they're going to fight back. You put a dog in a corner, he'll bite you. What are you going to blame the dog for? What do you blame the person for? What do you blame us for? But they do, huh? They put you into a corner, and then they're mad that you fought back. It's like abuser tactics 101, bro. Abuser tactics. I'm telling you, it's like you're in a bad fucking relationship and you're being abused by your toxic boyfriend or girlfriend or something. And they're like, I can't believe you're fighting back. I can't believe you're fighting back. Sir! And just a reminder again, I want you to hear me. Palestinians have to feed themselves still, guys. They have to go to work. Eggs cost money. Palestinians aren't getting free food. And a lot of the shipments of food from humanitarian efforts being made have been blocked by Israel. I need you to understand that that organizations already warned Israel. Even US had to warn Israel, hey, stop blocking food shipments. And Israel's like, so again, we have to pay attention to how we are processing the destruction. Now zoom out of this political lens and then ask yourself, what does this mean to be a person on a planet floating in the universe? My work is predicated on the macro, but the micro is impacted by your understanding of the macro. This is why I want you to understand. This is still happening in a bubble here. And there's a whole world. There's things happening in Rwanda and Congo and all these things. Okay, even Haiti is still destabilized, right? From my last check-in on Haiti. It's like you don't understand that the world doesn't revolve around this one thing, but the world is a reflection of this one thing. This one thing is a representation of how easy it is for good people to think that they aren't doing bad and for bad people to think they're doing good. Like, it's so clear to me that Israel, much like the Holocaust, you wonder, why did the Holocaust happen? Why did the Holocaust happen? Because it's easy to pretend it's not. It's so easy to pretend it's not happening. But it's happening. It's happening as I stream with you. It's happening as you enjoy your vacations. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. And you must keep living a joyful life. You must keep moving forward. But no matter how happy you are right now, somebody is suffering. Now listen to me when I say this, because you might be neurodivergent and internalizing this into you. Do not let this rock your spirit. This is not your pain. As Toto says on JJK, do not suffer as if you were the one suffering. Do not suffer on behalf of the suffering. Do something, but do not pretend that their suffering is yours. You are not the ones being genocided. You are not the ones starving. You are not the ones being displaced. Your children are not dying of hypothermia. So do not act like you are suffering the way Palestinians are suffering. But do not forget to suffer with them all the same. But you are not the ones being genocided or targeted. You are not the 130 plus women from the Sudan who killed themselves so they would avoid getting raped. So do something, but do not suffer like you are them, because you are not suffering like them. You are in a much better position. You are in a much privileged position. So do what you can when privileged and do something, because they can't right now. And even though they are burdened by being there on the front lines, yet they come together. Did you see people during Ramadan coming together to celebrate? For 1 second, trying to have a normal life. So if you're neurodivergent, especially, trust me, I've gone to therapy for this. Don't internalize their suffering like it's yours. It's not. You can still do something though. Okay? You can do something. There's always something to do. We can always do something.
Or which is to stop Israel's genocide.
The Houthis have been extremely explicit and repeat on an almost daily basis. Their attacks on ships in the Red Sea will stop as soon as the Gaza war ends and humanitarian and other supplies are allowed into Gaza and therefore...
Okay, so listen to them. Listen to the logic. They hijack ships and take hostages, which they allegedly have been treating pretty well, because people are literally making it impossible for them to do anything in retaliation. Anything they do, you will spin it as them being the most horrible people in the world. But why are they doing it? Why do they even have to take over your shitty ships? And that's the problem. People don't think about why people do anything. They just think, oh, well, they're doing it. They're just bad people. That's why they're doing it. Nobody, not a rapist, not a murderer, not an Israeli IDF soldier. None of them do it just because. There's a reason. We must deconstruct and eradicate that reason from our logic and in our society. There's no reason to do these things, but you created a reason to do these things. There was no reason to do these things, but you created a reason to do these things. And you create a system where other people now have to do these things.
for the Palestinians will no longer be under the threat and the horrors that you've earlier described and that most of us have seen on our screens for many, many weeks. The important thing is that although the US and the UK claim that they're only defending free movement in the Red Sea and refuse to accept any connection between this and the war in Gaza, for the Houthis, it's absolutely straightforward and explicit that, number one, they're
Chat says, of course, the captors will tell you they treat the hostages well. Tell me, how many videos of Palestinian hostages taken by Israel are shown for them kissing their captors as they leave? Because I have plenty of videos of Palestinians releasing Israelis and Israelis kissing them on the way out. Because it's not perfect. It's disgusting. Everything these people are doing is disgusting. And the name of whatever bullshit you want to tell yourself, Israel, whatever bullshit you want to tell yourself. But at the end of the day, Israel is allowed to kidnap, rape, brutally target and genocide Palestinians. And God forbid these people find any way to retaliate. God forbid Yemen, which is considered one of the greatest tragedies right now in current history. God forbid they find a way to retaliate. God forbid they find a way because of the position they were put into by the same people you want to make excuses for. It's not about excusing the destruction. It's about explaining why it happened in the first place. And the only person who's ultimately responsible is the people directly causing it in the first place, which is not them. You give them no choices, so they will make the only choices you give them. And then you will blame them for the limited choices that you gave them. Don't make me mute you. I will totally mute you, bro.
They're only targeting ships that have any connection with Israel, whether they're going to Israel, coming from Israel, delivering stuff, owned by Israelis or whatever, any connection, whatever. And that other ships are not targeted, except, of course, now, since the US and UK strikes have started, they're also targeting US and UK ships.
Also evident in the...
We'll target anyone who's allies with Israel at the end of the day. Because that makes sense for them. That's their retaliation. If you want to understand how people think and why they do what they do, really understand them. Okay, Chatter, you're getting muted. Nice try. Goodbye, muted. Okay, nice try, buddy. Again, you have to understand why people think they have to do this. This is why my work can piss people off. Because I go, okay, but why did he do that? And everyone goes, who cares, Brittany? And I go, it's going to matter if we want to understand people. I understand with you. On the surface, who fucking cares? But if we want to get down to the root problem, we really got to understand why they do it. Which is exhausting, by the way. And I'm not asking anybody else to do that emotional labor, right? But the reason I do it is, one, is a special interest of mine. And two, knowing why, maybe it's the autism, knowing why people do things makes me more compassionate. It makes me a better person knowing why people did things. And it also allows me to put down boundaries a lot clearer. You know? Before it continues. Before we let it get too far.
The fact that during the ceasefire, quote-unquote ceasefire, that Israel violated over 1,000 times, the Houthis stopped the attacks. And they only started them up again when Israel started completely starving out the Gaza Strip, fully restricting aid. And in defiance of the starvation blockade, the US and the Saudis started bombing in Yemen and killing children. So if you want to stop Israel from killing children, the US will kill your children. That's basically the conclusion of that sequence of events.
People literally think, I need you guys to hear me when I say this. People literally think Palestinian children are less. Yemenis children are less. They literally think their children are worth less. Jews should know this. Jews know that white nationalists think their children are worth less. So how could you turn around and look at Palestinian kids and have the audacity to say they are worth less? Isn't that amazing? How people you would think would be able to empathize more than anybody turn around and do the same thing to other people that was done to them. And this is, and hear me out, think about this connection. This is why it's painful to see a trans conservative or a gay conservative or to see a minority conservative. You're like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing the same thing to your people that this group of people you're with is doing to them? Like, why are you doing this? And honestly, I think they're afraid. I think they don't know where they belong. I think they're grasping at straws. I think they do think they're better. I think it's pick-me mentality. I think it's a lot. I think it's trauma. People need to go to therapy. People need to deconstruct. Yeah, the chat says, this reminds me of how my grandmother, she hates refugees, and yet she was one as a child. My parents are immigrants. You know how many of my aunties and uncles voted for Trump? I'm like, you guys are immigrants. But they're the good immigrants. Sarcasm. They're the good immigrants. Don't you get it? They came here legally. Okay, what about Mahmoud? What about Mahmoud, who's here on a green card, married to an American citizen? What more is the right way than a green card? He came here the right way. He's trying to do things the right way. So again, the irony is not lost on us, but I also had to come to that realization. We all have to come to realizations. We all have to realize one day, as we look at ourselves in the mirror, like, oh, this is how I participated. This is how I participated in hurting my cause or hurting people or going against my values. You will never stop hearing from me all of the mistakes I've made over the years because I will never stop making them. But the hope is to gain and earn wisdom to make less of them over time. I'm trying to be less bad. I encourage you to be less bad. The road to hell is paved in good intentions, and I think Ethan has a lot of good intentions, which is why we're all living in his hell right now. Okay? So we need to be less bad instead of working on being more good, because obviously being more good isn't helping anybody. Y'all need to be less bad.
It bears repeating here, Hezbollah and Ansar Allah are the only groups in the world that have provided aid to the Palestinian resistance against Israel's genocide. That's a fact. Citing their status as US-designated terrorist groups or historical examples of their violations of international law does not change that fact. If we acknowledge the fact that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, which Ethan, or at least his fans, seem to believe he does, then it must also be recognized that the international community is legally obligated under the Genocide Convention to employ all means necessary to prevent said genocide. When it comes to Israel's genocide in Gaza, these terrorists here are the only ones following the law, the only ones operating with any sort of moral compass.
All states are obliged to do everything in their power to stop this genocide from continuing in Palestine. Who has actually done that? South Africa, when they brought Israel to trial in the International Court of Justice for genocide. I've said arguably Hezbollah, not a state, but it is a significant actor in that state because it has engaged Israeli forces militarily, initially in territory illegally occupied by Israeli forces, the Shabaa farms in South Lebanon, to draw Israeli assets away from the genocide. And the third one that you mentioned very significantly, Yemen, under Houthi control. The Houthis, Ansar Allah, they announced in response to Israel's genocide in Palestine that it would block shipping into the Red Sea that was headed to resupply the Israeli regime as long as it continues the siege and the genocide in Gaza. And it's been using this choke point at the head of the Red Sea called Bab el-Mandeb, which means the Gate of Tears, in this narrow strait between Yemen and Djibouti at the opening of the Red Sea. And they started this targeted partial blockade in November of 2023 when the genocide started by boarding an Israeli ship, and then they sustained the blockade until...
See, why doesn't Ethan use this as his resource? Why does he go to Hassan? If he thinks Hassan's lying and he doesn't trust Hassan, why doesn't he go to news sources or like professionals who are talking about it and try to understand what everyone and how they're reporting it? Because like, even if you go through the BBC, who isn't even that great, we all know the BBC's trash, but like if you go through the BBC even, you'll get like different understandings of how they've talked about this particular thing. So again, I don't know why we're trusting YouTubers. Don't trust YouTubers. Guys, please listen to me. Don't trust YouTubers with your news. Listen to YouTubers tell you the news and then go do the research. Listen, when I watch Phil, and I watch Phil every day, I go, okay, Phil told me the story this way. I'm going to go Google it. That's what I do. I watch Phil and I Google, usually while he talks, or I Google after and I go, oh, Phil talked about that story today. I want to read his resources so I can understand it. Why is Ethan so mad at Hassan? Doesn't he wonder where Hassan's getting the information from? Doesn't he wonder who's talking about it? No. Ethan admits famously that he doesn't watch videos. He doesn't engage in content. He's too busy. He's a dad with kids. Then why are you opening your mouth? Why are you opening your mouth? Be quiet.
The announcement of the most recent so-called ceasefire, at that moment, the Houthis lifted the blockade while the ceasefire was going on, demonstrating that they were doing this as a humanitarian intervention in order to meet what the International Court of Justice has said is the responsibility of all states, and what the General Assembly in its implementing resolution has confirmed is the responsibility of all states to do everything in their power to stop the genocide and the siege that was being imposed on Gaza. You know, some ships avoided the blockade by sailing around Africa, but most of them couldn't. So the major shipping companies stopped sailing to the Red Sea, and the port of Eilat in Israel went bankrupt, which means that this blockade was working. It was denying the Israeli regime many of the goods that it needed to continue the siege and to continue the genocide in Palestine.
The United States, aka the terrorist designators, meanwhile, are the ones doing the terrorism. They are aiding and abetting a genocide with billions of dollars in arms shipments to Israel.
Oh, wow. Whoa.
terrorism. They are aiding
17.9 billion on military. Wow. Wow. Military aid to Israel. Wow.
and abetting a genocide with billions of dollars in arms shipments to Israel.
Now, look, I want to be very clear. I have no problem paying my tax dollars to support allies who are genuinely in need of help, because I know a lot of conservatives are taking on this talking point of we need to abandon Ukraine because we need to be spending that money at home. But just a reminder that like less than, I think it's 1%, I could be wrong, but it's like 1% of aid that goes to Ukraine is of our spending bill. It's really, really small. And so again, like I don't want to take away resources from anyone from defending themselves. I want to make sure why we're there in the first place. Okay? Like I want to make sure it's clear that I don't want us to get trapped in this like this bubble where we think like, yeah, I don't want to defend anybody. Like we shouldn't even be in this position. The fact that humanity is in this position is what's so frustrating. Right? I'm on my TikTok feed is a combination of it because the algorithm changes so fast. But it will show me like people from is it South Sudan and Sudan? Because they're two different places, right? I'm learning. I'm not familiar with the bubble enough, but I'm learning slowly of like people who are advocating are saying like we are still going through it right now. Like please don't forget us. Like people are saying don't forget us because they know they will be forgotten. And the way that we've already forgotten everything that came before us, we're forgetting Nazis. This Trump administration is moving so quickly, arm in arm with right-wing supremacists, with white nationalists. It's like we forgot. And when I see them say like, please don't forget us, girl, we are going to forget. This is why human memory is so fascinating. It's why humans are so interesting. We are going to forget. People forget to wish their kids happy birthday. Like we're going to forget. Because we're just going to keep moving on with our lives as we should in some ways. But I think that's the problem is like, why are we even here in the first place? There's nothing wrong with having your individual life. It's valuable. You should live in it. You should live your most valuable life. But if we want to change how we interact with the world, it has to also start with us. And this is why it's so painful to see well-intentioned people vote for Trump. Because regardless of your good intentions, it's just such, it's, history doesn't repeat itself. Humans repeat history. Humans repeat history. So you have to accept it and accept that we're always in living history. Sometimes I watch those AI TikToks where it's like, this would have been your life in Rome and this year, or this would have been your life in the 1940s America. And I just think that's someone's, that meme, like that's someone's life, bro. Yeah, this is someone's life. This is someone's life. It should make you feel a way. But you should also remember that you're not the one directly suffering. So get off your butt and do something about your life. How dare you wish to exist in a mediocre way? Get up and do something with your life. And I don't mean mediocre like what it looks like. I mean what it feels like. Make sure your life is good, even if that includes or only includes going to your 9-to-5 and coming home and playing video games. Do it well and do it joyful. Do it with kindness and do it well. And it can be a great life.
The liberal framework of thought is only able to conceptualize actors in conflict as being good and bad. Israel's far-right government is bad, Ethan says, but so are terrorists. Genocide is bad. I don't agree with genocide, of course, but hijacking ships is bad too. It's against the law, which is bad. Everybody should just stop doing bad stuff. Okay, well, Israel's not stopping. They're not stopping the genocide. The US is not stopping its arms shipments so that Israel can continue that genocide. That is the material reality. If you actually want that genocide to stop, you need to do something material to try to stop it. And so far in the world, the only people doing that outside of Gaza militarily are Hezbollah and Ansar Allah. If you spend all your time attacking these groups while sitting on the sidelines, idealistically opining on what forms of resistance are acceptable to you, then you're supporting the genocide. Full stop. There's something to be said here about the basic attack on free speech evident in this campaign. They want to deplatform Hassan for
It's kind of like how adjacent to homophobia and transphobia are you? And it's like if you vote for Trump, you're voting for LGBTQIA stuff. Somebody on my chat the other day was like, I'm really confused. Can someone tell me something Trump is doing that's really harming the LGBTQ community? And it's like, Yeah, and I just replied to them, yeah, so like simple example. And I gave some simple examples and they were like, oh my God, I didn't realize that. And of course you didn't realize it. You're not getting gay news. I'm on all the gay news sites. I get strictly gay news. Like I go to specific news sources that like gay news, pink news. Like I cover gay, like I watch gay news. And that's why we watch centralized news sources that are dedicated to covering certain stories, because you know, we're humans. We're going to die without knowing 1% of the world's information. And the only way we can kind of keep up is by understanding that I could just pay attention to gay news and I would never have time to fill my brain up with anything else. We could only fill our brains up with like news that's happening in Palestine and never need to know about anything else to feel overwhelmed. I am not asking you to know everything about what's happening around the world. No one can do that. I'm asking you that if you're going to talk about something, myself included, be ready to either be wrong and corrected, or to have to do the research, or to have to engage in a particular way, right? And again, I understand that there's a stereotype of like, I know what my audience knows what we do here, but it's hard for people, and I know it's hard for people to come to my channel and not understand like what my content is. But like, we aren't here exactly what the people we're viewing are doing, but we're here to examine it and to show support when we feel it necessary. Like here with Noah Samsen, I think he does a really good job at covering Palestinian causes. I think he does a good job of covering the issues that are happening. And I think it's a really good way to say like, hey, watch this video, right? I think you guys in chat were saying you like Bad Empanada. Maybe you're a Bad Empanada girly, or maybe you're a Hassan girly, or maybe you're a whoever you watch girly. But the point is that we all have our sources. We all have our comfort listens. We all have our ways of gaining information. And it's okay to know at some point you will be wrong, right? But here, we're not here to deconstruct or fix the world in one go. We're here to just do less bad. And that's hard because we're starting off the premise that we're doing bad in the first place. And that's hard for people. It's really hard for people to think of themselves as bad, which is why they never look at themselves. Because if I'm not bad, why would I ever have to question myself? So then I started to say, well, okay, everyone's good, but everyone's good because I thought it would comfort people's egos. So I tried that for like 4 years. Do you remember that? Everyone's good. Everyone's doing their best. I do believe that internally, but signaling wise, then people go, oh, I'm good. I don't have to do anything then. And I was like, okay, hold on. And then they were like, oh, if everyone's good, then are you saying this thing is good? It's like, no. Okay, how about this, guys? I'm going to start this. Everyone's bad. Oh my God, if everyone's bad, I should give up. No matter what you say, humans will twist it. It doesn't matter what I say, you'll twist it. Because you have to. Your brain is protecting itself, right? Chad says H3 used to be a lot of our comfort shows. I know. H3 used to be my comfort show. Now it's Nightmare Kitchen Nightmares, and Good Mythical Morning. Yeah. Chat says you have to actively do your best? Question mark. I mean, you don't have to do anything. But that is doing something. You are doing your best. I think everybody is doing what they can. It just might not be good enough. But you're doing it. And this is where Determined comes in. Somebody in chat asked me if I read Determined. I did read Determined by Robert Sapolsky. And again, you're limited by your biological experience and your ability to deconstruct it as you go along. Free will is like highly debated in philosophy circles for a reason. How much free will could you have if you decide to be pro-genocide? If you rape somebody, if you murder somebody, if you're abusive or racist or horrible towards people, how much free will could you have? Because why would you ever choose that? And then people go, oh, you have total free will. You are completely free. And you made this decision with your full chest. It's both. You are limited by your upbringing, your biological, your biological limitations. Like everyone is limited, but everyone could always do more. But you only can do more when you can, when you've unlocked something. People also misunderstand me. Like level 5 isn't the free will part. 2s can have and evoke free will, right? Like being a 5 doesn't mean you have free will. It's just a relationship with your limit in terms of your biological experience. So you have less limitations as a 5 than as a 2, because 2s are limited by constructs a lot heavier than 5s. 5s know everything is a construct. So the limitation is only based off circumstance, not objectivity. But 2s think their construct are objective. And because 2 thinks their constructs are objective, they're never allowed to think about it not being real. Like your homophobia is objective based off of religious belief, and because that's true and I can never live outside of this bubble, it means I can never ask myself about my homophobia. You know? Chat says, guess I'm a Brittany Simon girly. Let's go. Let's go.
Interviewing a Yemeni teenager on the grounds that they believe this teenager is a member of Ansar Allah, or the Houthis, a US designated terrorist group, and that Hassan didn't just interview him, but he promoted him. Glazing is the legal term they use, I believe.
It started with Hassan platforming Houthi terrorists. This kid is a rampant anti-Semite and a violent Houthi terrorist.
But he literally had a terrorist on a stream. This wasn't really an interview. It was like a glorified promotion reel.
Glorifying a terrorist live on stream. This man does not critically apply any form of journalism.
Hassan did not ask him one critical question. In fact, the opposite. It was a complete puff piece where he sucked him off, elevated him, was uncritical.
None of this is true. Ethan provided no credible evidence to the claim that Rashid Al-Haddad, or Tim Houthi Chalamet, the nickname of the Yemeni teenager, is a member of Ansar Allah. And in their interview, Hassan asked multiple questions that were critical of Rashid.
I don't know if he can answer this or not, but as far as the Ansar Allah militancy goes, like as far as the standing military goes, like I don't know if he is allowed to speak on this. I don't know if he's like actually a part of the groups at all, or just like simply a TikToker. You know what I mean? I don't know how to ask that in the best way possible, though.
His answer is a Yemeni who stands with Palestine.
In America, some of the like leading groups that are pro-Palestine are led by Jewish people who are anti-Israel. How does he feel about that?
He's saying anyone that supports Palestine, we're with.
Hell yeah. But even if that hadn't happened, and even if he were a member of the Houthis, calling for deplatforming on those grounds is a basic violation of free speech.
It was very frustrating to see that, because like there is journalistic value to interviewing every single person. People,
you know what it is? You know, do you remember when I did that interview with Sneeko and people were really mad? First of all, I didn't even process that people would watch it. Like, not really. And then they did, and they were like, Brittany didn't even like attack him on any of his points. When I came back to the internet and I started doing collaborations, I didn't want to attack people for their viewpoints. So then I tried to come into the space just asking people questions about their life and letting it be what it was. But then, of course, I ended up platforming Sneeko and like being too nice to him, which was like a mistake. But then those same men that were critical, like Abba and Destiny, that I didn't go hard enough on Sneeko, forgot that if I was going to go hard on Sneeko, now I'm going to go hard on both of you. And both of them suffer from misogyny. And I was always nice to both of them because I thought they were getting better, which my audience was like, why are you being nice to them? Right? Y'all told me, like, why are you being nice to these boys? Because I was hoping they were moving away from red pill and centrist ideas into something better. Same thing with Sneeko. When you try to meet these men with compassion, they get upset when you treat other boys with compassion. Well, forgetting that if you want me to hold them accountable, now I'm going to have to hold you accountable. And they're like, whoa, not me. I'm one of the good ones. You're not, even saying I'm one of the good ones. And that's the dilemma we have with these spaces. It's hard to meet people where they are, to hear their stories. A real journalist gets the privilege of meeting with somebody and trying to humanize them. A therapist gets that. Maybe a mother gets that. But realistic, I do think with content creators, we have to be thoughtful about the way we engage. But I think things just sound like an opportunity. I was on TikTok yesterday, and I found a progressive group of TikTokers that are upset. They're upset with Hassan for interviewing Bernie and AOC because they see Hassan as a puppet for the Democratic Party. You know? And that's the point. It's like Hassan can't win either. Nobody can win. Because humanity isn't about winning. It's about doing what's right. There is no winning. But in politics, it's always about winning. That's why it's difficult. That's why all of these spaces are so toxic, right? Discord said the person who reacted to your original Gamer Boy video and downloaded everything and then got sponsors for Teddy Fresh from H3H3, also wild. Bro. Exactly. At the end of the day, all of these men want me to be so much nicer to them, but meaner to the boys they don't like. But when I hold the men accountable in their own ways, they're like, whoa, not me though. I'm one of the good ones. But Discord's right. Didn't you literally take merch from a Zionist promoting a genocide because you would talk nicely about them in videos? So what are we talking about here? You give people a chance. They take it or they don't. Give yourself a chance, though, to put your energy into better people.
People have interviewed Osama bin Laden. I was trying to make him comfortable in that conversation because I didn't know if he was a Houthi or not. I thought he might be, right? So I wanted to make him as comfortable as possible. And then, yes, the conversation trajectory probably would have changed a little bit if he had said he was a Houthi. He said he was not. And I was inclined to believe him. There's no reason for me not to. But even in that process, they still asked him about like his thoughts on Jewish people, anti-Semitism and the like.
They wanted to deplatform Hassan for watching an Ansar Allah music video on his stream. They claim that this is terrorist promotion, watching unfettered terrorist propaganda, as they claimed. But the question here is, what level of denunciation and condemnation would be required during Hassan's viewing of that video in order for it to clear the bar of a valid viewing of a piece of political media? The mere existence on the screen of a video from the Houthis is enough to trigger that post 9/11 war on terror response in the American viewer, to the point that they're willing to just call for his banning for making such.
I do think it was pretty edgy for Hassan to show that video, but I don't know why he showed it. I think that's the dilemma. I don't know why he showed it. Do you know what I mean? And so that's why I don't get it. Like, I don't know why he did it. Right? Because a part of me is like, is he being deeply ironic? And not to be so autistic about this, but my autistic brain does think like you're being like super ironic, right? I don't know if I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but it's hardly the worst thing a streamer has done. And I feel like at the end of the day, streamers have done far worse. I mean, you know what I mean? Like far worse.
Such violent and evil threats like Yemeni people are a musical people, or these songs function as an act of resistance against the US-backed Saudi genocide.
Instead of terrorist propaganda, let's call it musicals.
They do musicals.
Instead of violent jihadists, let's call them musically talented people.
They're very musical people.
It is precisely this line of argument that the US government and the Trump administration have taken when it comes to the illegal kidnapping and detention of Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil. He is not charged with a crime. He is being silenced for his speech on the grounds that it constitutes terrorist promotion, as this sort of terrorism is a threat to...
Like, look, I have concerns, right? Like, is me being pro-Palestinian, like, is that going to get twisted by the US government as being pro-Hamas? And then all of a sudden, like, could people who are just pro-Palestine, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're saying. You're saying if you're pro-Palestinian, you're pro-Hamas. Or that you're not allowed to, you know, that's why America is so interesting, because we are allowed to make fun of our president. We are allowed to make fun of our military. We are allowed to you know, do a lot. In other places, you can't even do any of those things, right? Like, we are allowed to do a lot, right? One of those things where it's scary thinking about not living in a world where that's possible. I think some places do it pretty well, though. Like taking away certain types of free speech while still allowing like a relatively like safe environment. But it's not, humans can't be without corruption. So that's one of the dilemmas we're facing. But I don't want you to be overwhelmed with that reality. I want you to focus on staying joyful, right? But yeah, I am concerned. I mean, so many people have already been arrested. They're now scanning cell phones at borders. Like, they always could do that, but now they're doing it even more, looking for pro-Palestinian propaganda or whatever they want to call it on your phone. So like, people are being detained at airports. Like, it's pretty intimidating. And so when my family's like, do you want to come back to America or visit? Look, I'm still paying my American tax as a good American, but I'm very grateful that Croatia lets me stay here. And Croatia is one of the safest European countries. You know what I mean? Like, it does make me nervous. Like, it makes me nervous. Even my partner said to me, like, my partner was concerned. They were just like, hey, I love you. And I feel like if we go back to America, like, what if they do round up the gays? He's like, you're so obnoxiously queer everywhere. He's like, you don't shut your mouth about it. You've got a fucking flag on your street. I was like, I know. And he's like, there's no, like, you know what I mean? He's like, and that's true. Like, I called my brother and I was like, hey, I just want you to be careful right now. We shouldn't have to have these conversations, but we do, as many minorities do in America. Like, hey, just like be careful where you are because you're in a conservative area. I don't want you to go on a date with somebody who's like aiming to kill you. Like that trans man who was killed from a dating app because he was tricked into coming to somebody's house and they tortured him for a month and then killed him. I'm worried about my brother. Like, I'm worried my brother is going to be put in a position where some country boy, because he's out in the country, says, hey, I'm into you. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call that he died because he was being tricked. You know? And I think with the way that the Trump administration is so anti-LGBT, I think this is going to make people feel so much more empowered to be this way. This is why hate feels empowering to people. you know? Yeah, but I do. Listen, this is why I say as a minority, just me existing is activism. And I recognize that. And I've made the decision to go harder on it, to make it clear that I am here and I am queer and I'm a great person and I do great things for society. And I want you to know that. I want you to know that in my world, you exist. I hope I exist in yours. But I will not die closeted. I will not die closeted. I'm not going back in that closet. You can't make me. I have claustrophobia. I'm not going back in that closet. Okay? No matter what happens, I would rather die knowing that I was out and proud than live in the closet. I'm not living in the closet ever again, bro. It's not happening. Okay? So, yes. We take risks. And yes, we make decisions. But this one coincides with my joy. That's why I do it. Not because it feels bad, but because it feels right. I'd rather die out of the closet than inside of it, because that's what my joy wants. You know? Chet says, I don't get how you can be queer when you're married to a male. What are we, erasing pansexuality? What are we, erasing gender fluidity? What are we, erasing the bisexuals? Girl, LGBTQAIA. LGB. What do you think the B stands for? LGBT. What do you think the B stands for?
U.S. national security, according to the U.S. This is grounds for detention. The terrorism in question here is, of course, advocating against a genocide. Whether it's the U.S.-backed genocide of Palestinians in Gaza or the U.S.-backed genocide of the people of Yemen through its crippling blockade that has resulted in the starvation of hundreds of thousands of people, or its indiscriminate bombing campaign that has killed tens of thousands more. In both of these places, the justification is fighting terrorism. When the U.S.-backed Saudi coalition blows up a school bus full of school children, the justification they use is that they were targeting the Houthis.
It was an attack which drew international condemnation and left the parents of 40 children crying over their graves. Initially, the Saudi-led coalition claimed the attack was a justified military operation. It was targeting Houthi leaders. Now it says it made mistakes.
When Israel blows up a hospital, lighting medical tents on fire and burning Palestinians alive, the justification they're using is fighting terrorism. It's all part of this same system, and whether on the ground in Gaza or on the airwaves of media coverage of it, the premise itself of terrorism needs to be challenged. Which is why when you release a video for 3 million people attacking resistance to genocide as terrorism,
terrorist groups, terrorist propaganda, terrorism, terrorist organization,
you're sort of doing that same thing. The last point for today's video I want to bring up is the concept of deflecting criticism. Ethan implies that my decision to criticize him or character assassinate and horrifically lie about him, as he put it, is tied to Hassan being my idol, and my idol being criticized compelled me to defend him, seemingly against logic or reason or something like that. This was an accusation shared by many of the viewers of my video. Hassan Glazer detected, opinion rejected. Now what's interesting is that this response simply reinforces my point.
Yo, I would love a glazed donut right now. Speaking about glazing, bro. Glaze these nuts. Oh, see, I gotta stop. I gotta, ooh, like a glazed donut. Oh, ooh, girl. No one making me hungry, bruh. I need a vegan glazed donut. Stat.
About the Hassan bad online media ecosystem. To these people, responding to my arguments on their own merit is unnecessary.
Yo, I'm not even gonna play though. Chat says fucking same, I'm in a calorie deficit. Don't do this to me. Okay, I don't even count my calories anymore now that I'm eating vegan. Plant-based. Now that I'm eating plant-based, I'm not counting calories. I don't have to, bros. Nothing I fucking eat will ever make me gain weight because this shit is so fucking veggie focused. Like, don't get me wrong. I did find a slew of vegan cookies. I found vegan Oreos, vegan Fig Newtons, vegan strudels. I found vegan wafers. So don't get me wrong. If I eat all of those snacks, I found vegan chips. If I eat all those chips, yeah, I'm gonna fucking have to count my calories. But as long as I minimize my snackage, then I eat so much food every day that I don't even count my calories because I'm so veggie focused, bro. You know, I'm so, God. You know, chat said, tell me beans are my new, okay, tell me. Wait, let me tell you, beans are my favorite food. Bro, the beans always in this house. Beans, I love beans though. And Brussels sprouts, I love Brussels sprouts. That's my go-to. Give me some beans and Brussels sprouts. I made these amazing tacos. Oh, and gluten is officially back in my diet. I'm very excited. It has opened up a crazy amount of food. So now my theory is, I wonder if it was the gluten or the dairy that was fucking me up. But I took dairy completely out of my diet. Fabulous. I brought gluten back into my diet. I'm chilling. So far, I'll see if there's any issues. But so far, I'm doing okay. I'm eating a little bit at a time though. So it's not like I'm doing it without thinking. But you know what I mean? I have so many other vegan options now. Now I'm so like, I can do so many. So I don't know what's going on with my body, but hey, it's all about that experimentation. Okay? I don't know what it was. I don't know what fucked me up. I don't get it. You know? I don't get it. It is what it is. Discord said, have you heard of Vital Wheat Gluten? It's like a high protein flour. No, I don't think so. Anyways, small wins, girls. First world problems, small wins. I'm happy for it, you know? Let's get back to the serious topic. Almost done.
Necessary because they can simply write me off as de facto wrong because I am defending Hassan, who is de facto wrong because Hassan bad. It is not the actual political issue I'm defending him on that they're able to challenge. The issue, of course, being opposing Israel's genocide in Gaza and informing viewers about the resistance to that genocide without screaming, I condemn terrorism into the microphone for every second of that coverage. No, it's not that. It is the mere fact that Hassan is on the screen while I make these points that seems to trigger this response. The response of completely ignoring the valid connections between Hassan's arguments and my own. It's cowardly, but expected, and only serves to strengthen my resolve in the notion that these people are not serious in their politics and therefore should not be taken seriously. The other major example of this sort of deflection is in regards to my citation of the YouTuber Bad Empanada. I can't tell you how many comments I received from people that decided to throw out all of the points made in my hour-long video in their entirety because at the start of it, I cited Bad Empanada's prior responses. None of these comments, and I mean not a single one.
Look, you know, I called my friend's mom the other day. I was like, hey, nothing worse than the worst person you know making a good point. And I was like, you know what Ann Coulter recently said? And she was like, what? And then we were talking about how like even Ann Coulter was saying maybe we shouldn't be like taking people off the streets for free speech stuff, allegedly. And I was like laughing with her. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of these streamer boys in general. At this point, I'm pretty exhausted by all of them. That's why I like Noah. He's got great energy, very, very good energy, our Noah. And I am burnt out on the streamer boys, Bad Empanada included. But also, he does make some good points. I'm always willing to give people credits where credit's due, give people their flowers. Bad Empanada has a lot of really great points. Hassan has a lot of really great points. Again, I'm burnt out on the streamer boys, but that's why I watch Noah and Jon Stewart, because I'm not burnt out on that kind of content, right? So like, do what's going to make sense for your brain. I'm sure I'll come back to the streamer boy bubble eventually, but right now their edginess is too far for me. That doesn't mean they're not right. If Ethan Klein, one of the edgiest boys on the internet, gets to be credible in any way, then you got to give Bad Empanada space. Ethan is so edgy. The audacity of like listening to Ethan but not Bad Empanada, like they're both so edgy. It's just Bad Empanada has better resources than Ethan.
One out of the seemingly thousands of them took the time to respond to, let alone debunk Bad Empanada's points about Ethan's video. So far, I haven't seen anyone do that or even try. Regardless of how you feel about Bad Empanada or what you think of his posts online, the facts are the facts. If you can't dispute them, then just say that and move on. Embrace your ignorance and your blind fandom, because at least then you're not being a coward. You're just saying, yeah, I'm dumb. I'm a dumb idiot baby. I don't like Bad Empanada because he's mean to my favorite streamer. Okay, that's fine. That's the truth. There's a claim going around that Hassan being pro-Palestine does not make him immune from criticism.
One of the most cynical methods Hassan deploys to sidestep any criticism is to deflect to the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I've seen him do this so many times. He frames it like you are selfish for trying to criticize him, no matter what the reason is, because there's a genocide happening, man. How can you criticize me at a time like this?
In one way, this is true. Like, let's say Hassan walked up to you and stepped on your foot and you said, hey man, don't do that, ow. And he responded by saying, you're going to criticize me while there's an active genocide going on right now? Seriously? That would be an example of an invalid deflection from criticism. However, when the criticism in question is related to Hassan's support of Palestinians and advocacy against their genocide, and the criticism is coming from people who do not support that cause, then yes, it makes him immune. He doesn't have to take that criticism seriously because it's coming in bad faith from people who are not allies to his cause. If criticism is coming from parties who have no stake in or solidarity with the mission of Palestinian liberation, these criticisms are irrelevant. They are beneath consideration. The people who levy these criticisms do not talk about politics until it's time to make a Hassan bad video. This is the case with all of the slop tubers who shared the smear campaign. Ethan here might argue that he does have a stake in the pro-Palestine movement, as he has referred to himself as a stalwart ally to this cause.
I've been a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause.
It's like when my conservative mother, God bless her, I love her so much, says, Betsy, why can't conservative women be considered feminists? I was like, you guys can. They're called TERFs, Mom. You can be a TERF. She goes, well, I don't like that one. I just want to be called a feminist. I was like, okay, well, then you're going to have to start actually working on behalf of women's civil liberties and their rights. And she was like, okay, but does that have to include like gay people and abortion? And I was like, yes. Yes, it does. And she was like, well, I don't want to do that. I was like, okay, you can be called a TERF. And she was like, well, I don't want to be called a TERF. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. You know, trying to get my mom to understand J.K. Rowling is a TERF. It's a big, you know, we haven't had that conversation in like a year now. But like, I remember my mom just like, I get what she's saying. She's like, why can't we be a part of it? Look, you can be a part of it, bro. There are conservative feminists. You just... you can't be a part of my group because you don't want to be. If you want to hang out with me and my friends, you gotta be on the same page. You know what I mean? It's like, look, I feel like everyone wants to be validated and in the group, but mostly everyone wants to be seen. And there's nothing wrong with seeking validation or wanting to be seen, unless it comes at the expense of your own dignity, unless it becomes at the expense of other people. Right? People... It's a journey. And I know why you want to be included. I wish I could include you because you can come. You got to understand the rules of the space. Okay? And I feel like nobody wants to learn the rules of the space because they just, you know, it's like Ariel Scarcella. I saw her going around like, it was like a Comic-Con or something. And she was like, can you name 5 genders? Oh, it's just interesting to me that people that advocate for gender inclusion don't even know all the genders. She's like, I know all the genders. You know how conservatives learn everything there is to know about trans people? And they're like, wow, you don't know anything about trans people. Sir, you are obsessed. Sir, you are literally obsessed. It's like, Ariel, please. Ariel had a moment in gay history. She could have just not been a TERF, but she chose to be a TERF and then got mad that people called her a TERF. Don't be a TERF. You know? It's like, don't be a TERF. And then you can come hang out. And she's like, nah. And I was like, okay. Okay.
For many years.
This raises some questions, you know, to my mind, namely, how? What did he do to be able to bestow upon himself the label of stalwart ally? Calling yourself an ally is already, you know, what are you doing? But in this case, especially, what are you doing? What did you do? What did he do? He donated to a fundraiser. Okay. But what if I told you that this donation was a one-time donation of what is likely less than 1% of his yearly income to a fundraiser that Hassan ran, and that this was followed by total silence on Gaza over the course of the genocide until it was time to attack Hassan with smears that originate from genocidal Zionists. And then in order to justify these actions, he would hold that donation of what is likely 1% of his yearly income over people's heads.
I've donated $6,500 to a Palestinian charity after the war started.
Hey, Ethan Klein, thank you for the dono. Ethan Klein gave $6,500. My goat.
And when I say silence, I do mean that. A search through every episode of the H3 podcast, which is Ethan's most significant form of content creation in the span between October 7th of 2023 and the release date of his content nuke, you can count the number of times Gaza is mentioned on one hand. Most of the time, It's not even brought up by Ethan. It's brought up by his producers. And then when they bring it up, barely a breath is spent on the topic. I'm not interested in handing out or revoking allyship badges, but I do think if someone is using that label on themselves while actively working against the cause, this needs to be exposed and understood so that we can stop including them in the conversation. I realize that for those of you who are already aware of how he's doing this, I'm just doing that now by talking about him, and you're welcome to criticize me for that. That's who I'm willing to listen to criticism from, people that actually care about this issue. But I do think there are a good amount of people, in his audience especially, that just can't really see what he's doing. People who might otherwise be allies to the cause are being misdirected into liberal Zionism. And I do think that's worth exploring, at least for a certain amount of time. Now, while all of this vitally important influencer discourse was going on, somewhere else in the world, there were other developments. On March 17th, Israel carpet-bombed sleeping Palestinians in Gaza at 2 a.m. in one of the most bloody massacres since the genocidal onslaught began 17 months ago. Over 400 Palestinians are confirmed to have been killed by this act of Israeli terrorism, and over 1,000 more injured. They killed more children in a single day than in any day in Israel's history. This came after 17 straight days of a complete siege on any humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. They had already been breaking the ceasefire repeatedly over 1,000 times, something which the US media continually whitewashed, but this attack was Israel's formal unilateral destruction of the ceasefire, slaughtering hundreds of starving children in their sleep. This record-breaking child-killing event was celebrated in Israeli Telegram channels with hundreds of thousands of members. In response to a video of a Palestinian girl mourning her mother that was slain by Israel, the Israelis wrote, "Cry, you whore, a whore, 1,000 whores. Cry as long as you can until we get to you too and eliminate you together with your ugly girl." To a video of a child in Gaza collecting his parents' remains, someone replied, "A young piglet vigorously collects hot and fresh litter to break the fast." The very next day after this massacre, Israel blew up a cancer hospital, the Turkish Friendship Hospital, the only hospital in Gaza specializing in treating cancer patients. They just blew the entire building up. It's rubble now. The IDF said that the hospital was a Hamas compound, but it was actually an IDF compound. They raided it at the start of the genocide, kicked everyone out, and have been using it as a military base for the past 16 months. If we're gonna make this about good and bad, generally speaking, the people blowing up cancer hospitals are not the good guys. So if this is what's gone on in the first 3 days of Israel's full breaking of the ceasefire, why am I, instead of talking about that, talking about what some idiot Zionist influencer thinks? And there's a few reasons, but first, look, the last time I framed a video about Gaza around a YouTube drama, it got over 700,000 views. That's 700,000 people that came in expecting me to talk.
Actually, I knew Noah did it on purpose. That little sneaky son of a bitch. I love him. I knew he did it on purpose. He's such a fucking smart I watched that video and I thought to myself, Noah made 90% of this video about Palestine and almost none of it about drama. And I was like, you smart bitch. Because he's right. I'm so glad. I was like, I watched the whole thing. It's fabulous. But he's right. And this is the conundrum. This is the conundrum. As much as we say we don't want it, guys, even you guys, I get more views. Look how many people are in my stream right now. Because I'm fucking talking about Ethan fucking Zionist Klein. Because at the end of the day, the only way to be heard is to move on that part of people. I love humans, but we love the drama. It's true. The more peaceful I make this space, the more YouTube stunts my videos literally. YouTube literally sent me a message on my analytics and said, your videos are being stunted. You have no interaction. Haters pay your bills, but they also spread your message faster. That's why conservatives love platforming, being platformed by progressives, because it actually does do well. Yeah, it does. It actually does. That's why we even cover the stuff we cover, so we can have larger conversations. Yeah, Noah's right. Noah's right. His comment sections might be full of horrible comments, but his message is getting out to more people. And who knows? Maybe one of those edgy boys who listens to him has a conversion that day. Saint Noah brought me over.
Talk shit about a YouTuber and left with a video that was mostly about Gaza. But when I released a video the following week with an explicitly political topic, media coverage of Israel's ceasefire violations, it barely broke 100,000 views. My perspective right now is that over everything else, we need reach. We need people to know about what Israel
I think he's right. I do. Yeah.
is doing. People that don't already know, or at least aren't seeing updates on Israel's genocide, which is a lot of people. The media is not covering it. They weren't covering it a lot before, but over the past 17 months, that coverage has dwindled down to almost nothing. And as we've seen, the majority of it is just straight up manufacturing consent. This includes that record-breaking child-killing massacre from Israel. How many of you heard about that, described in those terms, the terms of what actually happened and not just another new, quote, Israeli Gaza offensive with some catastrophic record-breaking death toll that doesn't even make it into the headline? The best way, I think, to get more people to know about this stuff is by using the algorithm for what it's meant to be used, which is views. And in this case, what that looks like is farming drama. I could be wrong about this approach, and if you think there's better ways to...
No, he's right. This is like, I have to accept this as a content creator as well. Like, I remember there was a time like where when this is so my week this week. It's like Noah and I, like, this is why I start off the live show talking about this. I'm running into the same problem. As a content creator, I think my ideas are good. I'm trying to be more humanitarian. I think I'm a good person, but nobody cares. It's not interesting. It's not drama enough. Even the big content creators that see my content, they just don't care. And I don't think people are bad because of that. I think they also are running a show and they want it to be drama filled so they can use it for, I get it. I get it. It's why politics is a drama show. It's why all of our shit is drama, because humans are drama. Don't let men convince you only women like soap operas. Men love this shit. How did Elon get so popular? Fighting with people on Twitter, like giving himself ideas, like credit for ideas he didn't even invent, right? So like that's why Trump got so popular. He was a troll. Trump trolled himself all the way to the White House. You know? Absolutely. Absolutely, he did that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, Noah's right. I'm realizing that too. And I hate it. I do. I think it's like the part of humanity that really annoys me. But, you know, we got to pay our bills too. And we do want our message to be heard. We do want our messages to be heard. And this is how you do it. So I still don't want to debate people or interact or collab with bad people. But I'll collab with good people who have interesting ideas. But like, you know what I'm saying? You know how much more popular I'd be if I just debated everybody all the time? But I can't, it's so negative. That's why they do it, by the way. You know what I mean? They so do it, right? Just our YouTube chat says, I'm so happy you're admitting this too. The thing that annoys me so much is when certain YouTubers claim they're above the drama. No. I want to be very clear. I want to review the drama. I don't want to be the drama. Like, there is a difference. The YouTubers who are in the drama are the reason we can create content about drama. Do you know what I'm like? But I want to make it abundantly clear. I don't want to be in the drama. Like, that's not what I want to do. I just want to talk about it, but I don't want to be in it. So like, you know how many DMs I get from people when I review their content? I don't reply to you for a reason. Because the moment I start replying to you like I used to, I'm in the drama. Girls, don't worry. This channel gonna be fire. We're going to review the drama. We're not going to be the drama. And they do, girl. They slide into my DMs. I just, I'm going to talk about you, but you know what I mean?
To go about this, then feel free to let me know in the comments. I've been thinking about lately doing something like scaling up and running the channel as a platform, but a nonprofit, so that I can just cover more things more consistently and not have to choose between, you know, a US-backed child massacre and Ethan Klein. But until then, it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. Regardless, it doesn't matter what you think of these creators. It's not about them. It's not about anyone being good or bad or what your YouTube subscription feed says about your morals. It's about a genocide that's happening right now, that's unfolding in front of our eyes, and that most of our countries are actively supporting. If these creators are giving people rhetoric to support the genocide that's happening, then we need to talk about that. That's something we need to discuss, especially if that person is claiming to be an ally to the cause. And if other creators are fighting against it, then that's worth talking about too. If they're providing historical analysis and breaking down propaganda that's being used for the genocide, or giving an honest voice to its resistance, then that content is important and should be shared and supported regardless of how you feel about the individuals involved. Unfortunately, we're sort of stuck in a media ecosystem that cares far more about influencer drama than it does about Palestinian lives. Part of the effort here is an attempt to steer that media ecosystem and the consumers existing inside of it towards being more aware of their plight, towards caring about it, and hopefully doing something to try and stop it. People living in the West have the most power over anyone else in the world to stop the genocide. We are living in the belly of the beast. We have direct geographical, physical access to the politicians, the propagandists, the weapons companies, and the supply chains that are facilitating this genocide. Protesting is great. We should keep doing that. But also, you know, I feel like we have to be honest with ourselves. 17 months in, and what is protesting actually accomplished? Raising awareness, sure. Divestment, yeah, in some places. But really, politically, materially, nothing. Israel just killed the most children in its history in a single night with total impunity, with a deafening silence among the Western media. If we want this genocide to stop, it's time to escalate. That's all I'm saying. So anyways, yes, I will keep using influencer drama to grab your heads and slam them against the screen to show you what Israel is doing. And if you don't like that, tell your favorite influencers to stop using their massive platforms to back a genocide. Tell them to stop spreading genocidal propaganda, lying about the resistance to it, and silencing and deplatforming advocates against the genocide. Do that, and then I'll leave you all to your slop. It's very simple. Okay, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching.
It.
I've linked some fundraisers below. Support them if you can. Free Palestine. Goodbye.
Whoop, whoop. Let's go. I am very, hold on, do not play.
Since I released my video,
very good, very good, very good. That was very good. I'm gonna link it. Love Noah. See, Noah's so digestible. Love him. Just released, killed it, absolutely slayed. Free Palestine. Love it. Great video. Great fucking video, bros. I'm on fire. I fucking love it. Okay, now I'm gonna show you really sad TikToks. Everybody get ready. Sorry. Okay, you're just watching it. They lived through it. You're going to have to watch this, though, because you might never see it. And I might be the only reason you see it. Sorry. Not sorry. Okay. Oops, that's very loud. Okay, I'm going to have to read to you mostly. So I'm going to try to read over the music. So I'm going to turn it down just a bit so my voice is a little higher. If you're reading this, it means I have been killed. Hassam Shabbat expected Israel to kill him. He prepared this statement. Okay, I'm gonna lower it down a little bit. I have been killed, most likely targeted by the Israeli occupation forces. When this all began, I was only 21 years old, a college student with dreams like anyone else. Okay. Hold on. Actually, there's a better video. Wait, where's the other video? I had 2 videos saved about his story. This one. Okay, this one's the one. I want to do this one. Hold on. Same story, same guy. Journalist Hassam Shabat refused to stop reporting on the genocide of his people. Israel killed him. He was 23 years old. Hassam was a journalist for Al Jazeera. Mabashar? I don't know how to say these words. Sorry. March 19th, 2025. This is how the scene changed. They're wounded on the floor here. There's a number of people who have been wounded and martyred. Now, a lot of people might not understand why they call them martyrs, and they think like, oh, see, they're martyrs. They think like they're suicide bombers, because, you know, we often in the West associate the word martyred with suicide bombers, but like that's not the reason they use these words. It's like killed unjustly because of who you are. Like, it's almost like, think of it that way. I think that's the way I would translate it to people. It's like, obviously there's a relationship with this idea that maybe they're Muslim or something else in your head, but you think of it as more like they were martyred. They were killed for their beliefs. In Christianity, we talk about being martyrs and we think we're such good people because we die for our belief in Christ. I'm not a Christian anymore, but you know what I mean. They're the same thing. They're being killed simply for who they are. Martyred. So Hassam knew that his work put his life at risk. Look at this Habibi. Look how young he was. Look at this child. I swear I missed you. They said you were martyred. Why? What do you mean why when the occupation entered the north? We were about to mourn you, man. I swear. Said, are you not afraid for your life? He said, as long as there's massacres and bombing, should we stop? Question mark. In November 2024, an Israeli airstrike targeted at a home moments after Hassam entered. So he's in the house. Here he is. He escaped the attack with injuries. We throw fear and anxiety behind our backs and did not hesitate to document these crimes. These targeted attacks are part of a plan by the Israeli occupation army to target journalists. And also to hinder our work. Which, by the way, Israel has targeted journalists and medical doctors, nurses, ambulances, all in the name of what they say is like justice for Israel and / targeting Hamas organizations, when in reality they're just targeting civilians. I made sure in this place and during this targeting that my colleague and I would continue the coverage to our last breath. If I'm not mistaken, his colleague also passed away. I have another video of his father mourning him. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the colleague he's talking about. He's also dead. Hassam was loved and respected across Gaza. In January, when Palestinians filled the streets in northern Gaza to celebrate the ceasefire announcement, the crowd surrounding Hassam lifted him on their shoulders. On February 10th, he hugged his mother for the first time in 492 days. And 6 weeks later, she had to endure learning about his death. Israel killed Hassam just an hour after he reported on the army killing fellow journalist Mohammed Mansour, which I believe is the other gentleman. I have his dad crying over his dead body. Because that's what I say when I say make sure you're watching the videos. So you can see parents crying over the dead bodies of their children. So you know when Ethan says, I want to take you to Israel to show you how great Israel is. We lost our voices calling on all of you, on all of the world. Telling you we were being exterminated in an alarming way. Qassem is at least the sixth Al Jazeera journalist in Israel who's been killed since October 7th, 2023. I watch Al Jazeera. I watch AJ Plus is like the TikTok. I watch Al Jazeera News. I watch Al Jazeera America. I just watch all of the sources because, again, you're only watching CNN and MSNBC, which is fine, but it's limited. It's a limited scope of a bubble, right? It just gives you more access. Like, these types of videos are being promoted and uplifted by Al Jazeera News and all these other places because, like, it's like, think of it as their special interest. And then think of the Israeli propaganda as like Israeli special interest. You know what I'm saying? He was 23 years old. Israel's attacks have killed at least 208 Palestinian journalists and media workers in Gaza. If you're reading this, it means I've been killed, most likely targeted by the Israeli occupation forces. I risked everything to report the truth, and now I am finally at rest. Something I haven't known in the last 18 months. Hold on. I did this all because I believe in the Palestinian cause. I believe this land is ours, and it has been the highest honor of my life to die defending it and serving its people. So that's him. And then I don't know if I saved the other video. I might not have. Look at all these videos I saved for you guys. I might not have saved it, but his coworker, Mohammed, I saw his dad crying over his body, asking him to say something, if he can say one last thing. It's very sad. It's very real, guys. Like, it's again, we cannot suffer like we are the ones suffering, but we can remember to suffer with people in spirit and do something about it, right? We can do something. And look, every piece of media that we take to normalize people in hijabs or people who are Muslim, it's so important, right? Like, everything we can do to remember these people are just like us. They are not different from us. Like, I just found this mom. I'm obsessed with her.
Here's one of
you know her, Connie Sweets. I'm obsessed with this woman.
my most viral recipes, vegan naan, and they're part of my Ramadan series. You can have some with garlic, olive oil, or even butter if you're not vegan.
These videos are so important because we forget they're just like us. She talks like half my relatives. Look at her accent. Where's she from? Michigan? She sounds like half my, you know what I mean? This is why this is so important. Because I grew up in a bubble where, like, even watching somebody with a hijab on might make people nervous. And I grew up with Middle Eastern parents, you know, because they're not Muslim. So you have to remember that even within Middle Eastern or West Asian, like, parts of the world, like, we suffer. Like, you know, we suffer from looking at each other like the enemy because we forget, like, our children die and cry and are wounded the same as yours. Our babies are not worth more or less. You know, check out Connie Sweets. I love her. Connie Sweets, she's fabulous. Okay, hold on. I feel like I had another video. Ugh. Mental. Did I not save it? Oh, here it is.
The Israeli.
I want you to. So this is the director of the movie No Other Land. So this movie, this man here, this bald man here on the screen, he was just here. He was just at the awards ceremony, right?
Co-director of the Academy Award-winning documentary No Other Land says one of his Palestinian co-directors has been, in his words, lynched. In a post in just the last hour, you've...
Okay, not to be such a human like Psychology 101, but truly calling him a co-director, it takes away it takes away from the director. He's the main lead, like, you know what I mean? Calling him a co-director makes people think it wasn't important. He was released hours ago, according to what? The news? Wait, he was released?
Yuval Abraham says his co-director, Hamdan Bilal, was beaten and was hurt in his head and his stomach. He also says soldiers got onto the ambulance he called, and there's been no sign of Bilal since. Our team is out to the Israeli Defense Forces for comment on those allegations. The Israeli co-director of the Academy...
Got it? Okay. No Other Land filmmaker, Vanity Fair, Hamdan Bilal is free after being beaten and detained by Israeli forces, according to his co-director. We came back from the Oscars, and every day since there has been an attack on us. His collaborator, Isabasel Adra, told the Associated Press, this might be revenge on us for making the movie. It feels like a punishment. So here they are. So this third man here. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. I didn't realize the screen was halfway in. So this third man here is who we're talking about. Hamdan, a filmmaker who was part of the Israeli and Palestinian team that won an Oscar after searing Israeli occupation documentary No Other Land, or for the searing occupation documentary, is free after allegedly being attacked by the West Bank settlers and arrested by Israeli forces Monday evening. What? That's not a story. Hello? Do I have to pay? What? What happened? Is this a story? This is it? This paragraph? I'm suing Vanity Fair. What? That's not a story. I'm so mad. That's not a story, dude. Be like, oh yeah, here's a whole ass story about it. I want to know. Here, CNN. Okay, sure. Let's see. Okay, on Tuesday afternoon, following his release from detention, his lawyer said that he had been arbitrarily held in the police detention. An Israeli settlement is occupied in the West Bank, that he had been beaten in custody by Israeli soldiers. Following his release, he was moved to the hospital where he's being treated for injuries. Despite suffering from dehydration and bruising, he left the hospital and insisted on going home. Everybody always wants to go home. We always want to go home, right? CNN has reached out to Israeli authorities for comment on the allegations. Speaking through tears from the inside of her home in the village of Susa, on Tuesday afternoon, Bilal's wife, Lemia, says, told CNN that her husband was attacked in front of their house by 3 settlers shortly after the sundown breaking of the fast iftar, the sundown breaking of the fast during Ramadan. Yeah, because Ramadan's still happening, right? When does it? I don't know when it ends. Bilal had seen a group of settlers who were attacking the village, she said, but when he tried to document them, they came after him. The men beat him with brass knuckles and with the butt of the rifle on his head, while a mob of other settlers threw stones at the doors, tried to penetrate into the house and the windows, where she and her 3 terrified children were sheltering. Shame. Adra told CNN that he had gone to Bilal's home. That's the lawyer? Or the other? No, that's their other director. Monday evening, after Bilal called him in distress, he arrived to see Bilal and at least one other person being taken away. Adra added that the group of masked Israeli settlers, Israeli police, and the military were also outside the home, with Israeli soldiers firing at everyone who tried to get close. CNN saw a bullet casing on the ground on Tuesday, just steps from Bilal's door. The Israeli military said it arrived at the scene of a violent confrontation between Palestinians and Israelis who were throwing rocks at each other. It said the fight had broken out after several terrorists hurled rocks at Israeli citizens, damaging their vehicles. Oh, see how they use the word terrorist? 3 Palestinians and an Israeli were taken in for questioning after several terrorists, in quotation marks, threw rocks at security forces. We'll have to know more. I'm curious if he'll do any follow-up interviews and stuff.
Academy Award-winning documentary.
Yeah, I think regardless, I'm just trying to make it clear, like, this is wrong. This is wrong to treat people this way. It's wrong that this is what we're doing. I think that's been clear. I really appreciate how Noah covered the story. I think he is the right person to get a lot more eyes on things. And I think people can't help but be involved in drama. And so they will be. And so if he keeps it up, he'll get more people aware. I think that's why Hassan does it or why anyone else does it, right? That ultimately we're hoping that it slowly converts people. Because I think ultimately, like, it's like somebody said the other day during the vegan argument, like, when I say veganism is a journey, you can't just make people vegan. They're like, Brittany, racism isn't a journey, is it? Yes, it is. Because if we could just look at people and say, don't be racist, they'd be like, oh, thanks. I never thought about that. But that's not how humans work as a biological, like, species. Like, that's not how we work as an animal species. It's not enough just to hear it. We have to embody the experience. And so my compassion understands that it's limited for you, but I need you to know that doesn't change the fact that you might feel unsafe to some people. So I know Ethan's having a limited biological experience. I know he's having a real experience. Like, he's really going through it right now. I think that's why, why you can't fault people for feeling bad for him, but you also can't fault people for not wanting to engage with him either. Like, ultimately, like, Ethan is limited and he literally can't see past the bubble, which all of us can't see past our bubbles. We're all limited in that way. It's just that the way Ethan is limited specifically is not a universal experience. So let's talk about that really fast. Okay. All of us are limited by our bubbled experience, but not everybody is limited in the same way. Let's bring out the paint. Let's bring out paint. Let's bring out paint. Let's make an illustration, girls. I know Indiana wants my attention. She's not scratching at the door yet, so she's distracted by how cute she is. Okay. Whoop, undo. Okay. We all live in a bubble. Give me a brush. Okay. Ethan is here. Hassan is here. Other people are here. Then there's this outer. Ethan only sees this. And Ethan's like, okay, this is all that's true. Hassan sees this and goes, okay, this is what's true. Other people see this and go, okay, this is what's true. And then other people see this and go, okay, this is what's true. Right? We're all limited. Another way. Okay. Okay. Ethan is here. Actually. Okay. Wait. Hassan. Okay. Okay. Ethan. Others. Wow, you like that? Okay. So this is it. There's a limitation. And we can't expect Ethan to be here since he thinks there's a big wall here. He can't see it. But because he can't see it, okay, Ethan also can't see that we can see down. Okay? So we can see the bubble, and there's a bubble outside of this bubble. Don't worry, okay? There's always more bubbles. There's always more perception. Okay? So we can see to Ethan's bubble, but Ethan can't see to ours. So actually, it'd be more like, okay. So you can see, and then there's this bubble that none of us can see. Okay, so we can see into Ethan's bubble, but he can't see into ours. So getting mad at Ethan for not being able to understand our position makes no sense. Being frustrated with him, sure. How is that not frustrating? But Ethan could never know what he doesn't know. None of us can. None of us can ever know what we don't know. So how can you fault people for being frustrated with Ethan and not wanting to engage? Okay, I can't. I get why you're frustrated. I don't want to engage. I get it. Okay. But also, I look at Ethan, and the only responsibility I put on him is not a prescription and not objective, but it's the one that I would put on myself, which is inappropriate because he's not me. But I would wish for Ethan to allow himself an opportunity to be joyful and to pop the bubble he's in to go into a different bubble that will allow him to be compassionate to other people in a way that would allow them to be compassionate to him. You are never at a disadvantage for being in your joy. You are only in a disadvantage for limiting your joy. And so I say to you, do not limit your joy the same way I would say to myself, Brittany, do not limit your joy. Limiting your joy for this very short time we have on earth is never in your interest. And so if I could say anything to Ethan, it would be give yourself an opportunity to consider something outside of this bubble, because I think his joy is here, or even here, or maybe it's here, or maybe I don't know where it is, but it's definitely not in here. Ethan is obviously not joyful. The joy cannot be in this limited space. Okay? It just can't be. It's not there. And that's what I wish for all of us, to not limit our joy. Okay? Chat says free Indiana. I'm going to free her right now. I'm going to free all of us, girls. I'm going to go. This was a great live stream. I'm going to go record Love is Blind, get it done this week as fast as possible. Please note, this is the last week of daylight savings, and then Europe is synced up with America. So I will see you this week at 4 p.m. CET time, which I think is 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. No, something like that. You guys know, whatever time I'm here on stream, it will be late. But next week, we'll start at our normal time, 7 and 10. Okay, I'm going to let you all go. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, great stream. Great job, Noah. Please go follow Noah. He's really talented. Noah Sampson. And I wish everybody joy, especially Ethan. It would benefit all of us if Ethan was a more joyful person. Ugh, the ecosystem would just get so much healthier. Could you imagine it? Could you imagine it, girl? It'd be so much better for all of us. You know what I mean? Oh, all right, girlies. I'll see you tomorrow.